Hello. This is What If Lady Toki sent Leaf back in time. Please like and subscribe to my channel and check out the author and the fanfiction linked in the description. Enjoy. They were coming, who was the prey and the predator, that was completely up to perspective. In the mind of the Cipher full attack force, they were the predator. But surely enough, Leaf was going to destroy them in every way possible. Spandam sat in his office, smoking a cigar. Though suddenly he felt his back shiver, someone was thinking about him, and suddenly the room became heavy, his body began to sweat profusely. Then his body stiff up as he felt a strong, heavy air pass over him. Commander. A ship is blocking our path. An agent went into his office space, where he quickly turned around to hide his shivering stature. Ya blow em up. Exclaimed Spandam, but the agent didn't leave. But Commander, Force 1 is currently under attack by 3 people, Force 2 is under attack by 2 people, and we are also, but the agent couldn't finish his sentence as a fist went right through his heart. The agent fell forward and Spandam was blinded by the light that shined behind the assailant. His eyes grew wide as it was a ghost back from the dead. No. Mujiwara killed you. He freed me. The ghost was Rob Lucci, back from a near-death experience at the hands of his new captain. His recovery was nothing short of a miracle. Lucci lunged forward, attempting to end it in one strike. But the commander of Cipher Pole 9 would not die with such ease. He earned his ranking having mastered the art of killing. He was the pinnacle of the organization before Rob Lucci came in and took the title. Spandam caught his strike mid-air, blocking him from finishing him. You cocky little shit, I'll teach you why my track record is perfect. Spandam pushed him back and went for the leg. Lucci hopped in the air, to which the commander brought up his other leg to connect with Lucci's face. In one fell motion, Spandam had knocked Lucci back several steps. Instead of backing down, the former Cipher full agent simply smiled, enjoying the challenge. Good, you will tell me the information I need. Declared the teenager. The fuck are you talking about? Spandam pulled out 2 metal rods from his back pocket. Did you just pull that out of your ass? Leaf had entered the room as well. On his wake were the 2 high-ranking Cipher Pole agents, as well as a plethora of bodies of the agents, unfortunate enough to be assigned to Spandam's unit. They were swiftly taken care of as Leaf wasn't going to be bothered by them. His new heightened senses, fighting experience, and newfound intelligence was amazing. It made everything easier. You must be Mujiwara, you need to die here and now. The Cipher Pole commander charged forward, attempting to attack Leaf, who, despite having a professional killer charging towards him, simply stuck his tongue out and made a bless sound at Spandam. The stupid agent forgot that he was fighting someone else. You will not touch my captain. Lucci intercepted the attack by infusing his fist with thick resin-like substance. Armament. The fuck, Lucci never had this in his timeline. Maybe it was because he underestimated Leaf so much that he didn't even try to use this skill on him. He would have to ask later. So Spandam, well mid-flight, met the armament-infused fist of Lucci directly on his spine. The impact caused the assassin to slam harshly against the wooden floor of the ship. Spandam could only spit blood as his back was shattered. Though the newest straw hat was not done quite yet. As soon as the rat bastard hit the ground, Lucci took his right foot and pulled it so far back that his soccer ball kick to the ribs of Spandam was met with a satisfying crack. Now Spandam was flat on his back broken, ribs broken, and yet his pride was still strong. Lucci stood over him, his body shaking from the anger that has built up in the days since learning that he was going to be abandoned. Leaf remained watching at the doorway of the room with his arms crossed, and his face was neutral. Lucci then roughly grabbed the shirt of the fallen assassin and pulled him close to his face. Who is the man that killed my father? Lucci stated, gritting his teeth as to hold himself back from finishing the bastard. Mahahaha, the broken man coughed up a laugh despite his predicament. The broken shard of rib bone on his thoracic region shifted slightly, which was enough. Before having the chance to complete his statement, his injury was too much as a broken rib collapsed on his lungs, puncturing it. It wouldn't take long before he choked internally in his own blood. His last breath was a splurge of blood that filled his lungs before ultimately succumbing to death. Spandam's eyes rolled on the back of his head before he could reveal any more information on the killer. Let's move, Lucci. Leaf grabbed his shoulder to give him slight comfort. In his mind, he was a bit jaded by not being able to deliver the killing blow that would make him feel a little better at what that damned bastard did to Robin, but he has a son, an equally despicable piece of shit of a son. He'll get Robin's revenge then. Lucci released the fallen assassin commander on the ground. Aye, Captain. At least he learned something about his father's killer, no matter how small. The duo then set the ship ablaze, burning the wretched ship down into the ocean. They then left and returned on their own ship. Leaf and Lucci were the first to return as the rest of the crew were still dealing with the other Cipher Pole ships. With Mihik, Arlong and Brule. Hey Hawkface, how many you got? Arlong was bouncing in and out of mirror fragment created by Brule. He was in the front of the battle while Brulé stood back, creating the perfect assist opportunities for Arlong to thrive. Though these agents were not weak by any means. They were trained killers, but they were still no match for them. 23. Miha cut 2 agents that got in his way. 25. What the hell, we only have 17. Arlong exclaimed. But he had a trick up his sleeve. Babes. Let's do the thing we talked about. To which she nodded with a giant blush on her face. Arlong joined her in the back line while Miha continued to rack up his numbers. But Arlong wasn't worried as he pulled his hand back, creating one of the fundamental fishman karate forms. He then let out a breath, clearing his mind before backflipping into the ocean. As Arlong dove below the ocean, he formed his hands into a V shape before continuously building up energy behind him. Underwater, a vortex began to form, quickly building up force, and finally, Arlong launched the vortex into the surface, launching it directly at Brulé. The move was known as Yaranamiaka Spear Wave. Brulé smiled as she brought out her mirror in front of her, catching the spear-shaped stream with it. Unknown to the agents, fragments of mirror were created near them, thus dividing the spear wave throughout all the small mirrors. Those who were lucky were pierced right through a vital organ, making their deaths quick and easy, while others well. Several agents who were quickly by the combined attack yelled in pain as some of them had a hole where their eyes were supposed to be, puncture through their lungs, their limbs hanging in a way that it wasn't supposed to. But Mihik took mercy and ended their misery. He sliced them where the pain would be instantaneous, where death would be quick. Mihik looked at Arlong, who was still in the ocean, and gave him a nod. Where Brulé opened a mirror way to get back into their ship. The swordsman and the mirror master entered through the portal and left Arlong to clean up. Arlong gave them a thumbs up before creating a big enough whirlpool to sink the ship. No survivors. After completing cleanup, Arlong joined the rest of the Strawats on the ship, swimming expertly through the ship debris. Where Mihik was already debriefing with Captain, while Lucci stood at the crow's nest to survey their surroundings. So babes, what was the final score? Arlong placed his arms around Brulé, who held his arms close to her. We lost by 8. She replied, but Arlong didn't really mind. Ah, we'll get him next time. To this the two smiled at each other. Meanwhile Mihik, who was debriefing the captain, finally completed his report. Alright, after Katakuri and Hancock returns, we immediately head to Sabati. Was Luffy's response. It should be any minute now. But Hancock and Katakuri. Sure enough, the combination of the Empress and Dogtooth was too much for the Cipher Pole agents. As in a matter of minutes, Katakuri had slammed his hammer machi arm right through the belly of the ship, causing the ship to cave from the impact. To those who were under the fire of the two powerhouse, they could only shudder in fear, as their life was flashing before their very eyes, years of training as expert assassins, infiltrating high-priority target for overt mission, and they will all die now at the orders of Spandam, the most unqualified bastard to lead an entire division of Cipher Pole agents. Life sucks like that. As the ship began to sink, Hancock was turning all the agents who were after her into stone, using her famed perfume femur. A skillful set of kicks that bonds her devil fruit ability with each strike. Her frozen bounty of 80 million biri was truly unjust. Oh Hancock. You are a royal Shichibukai, but the agent met the bottom of Hancock's heels, turning his mouth into stone. I was a royal Shichibukai. I have placed Amazon Lily under the care of Strawwet Leaf. Little did she know, her response was transcribed by a messenger snail going directly to the CP0. Hancock, you should not speak to the dead. Katakuri picked up the transponder snail that one of the surviving agents pulled out and hid under his body, and he destroyed the electronics which the snail was using to transmit the live feed. He then tossed the snail into the open ocean and left the sinking ship. Yet again, as Captain ordered, no survivors. Hancock flicked her hair, seething at the sight of the dreadful Cipher Pole agents who chased after her man. Right. To end the miserable life of these men, Hancock left them with a parting gift by turning the survivors into stone. Was it an easy decision for you to leave your home? Katakuri let silence fill the air for a moment before asking her. It wasn't, but this man, he is worthy to follow. And to love. Hancock never really spoke to Katakuri about their past. You had to leave your home, right? I had to, in order to enact change, but it was hard to leave my siblings behind. It was then that Hancock placed a hand on the vice captain's shoulder, looked him dead in the eye and said. We will get them. To this Katakuri smiled and nodded his head. The captain chose the right queen. She then jumped away from the ship, using her inhuman leaping ability to return to their own ship. As she arrived, Luffy met her, immediately picking her up off the ground, giving her a kiss. Good of you to join us, Miss Boa. He then placed her on the deck once more, though not releasing her from his embrace. Thus the Strawats have cleaned house, not even the main force of Cipher Pole 9 can stop their current path to pure dominance. Orders, Captain. Arlong was tasked with manning the helm. Lucci was in the crow's nest. Mihik had been on rope duties. Then Hancock and Brulé had been tasked to create a meal for the crew. Meanwhile Luffy and Katakuri stood on the bow of the ship overlooking their destination. Sabati Archipelago. Was Luffy's orders, and lucky for them, he was smart enough to grab a log pose from Sabati when they were there. How did he find time? Well, on their way to beat the shit out of the celestial dragon in the auction house, Luffy had stolen a log pose off a market stand. He was a pirate after all, stealing was part of the job title. Aye, Captain. Arlong turned the rudder, following the log pose to wherever it was pointing at. They were different people, with different beliefs, different walks of life, and different approaches. Katakuri wanted a true adventure, away from the shadow of his mother, ultimately to protect his brothers and sisters. Burlee wanted a new life wherever her brother will go, but her heart was also taken rapidly by one long-nosed fishman. Arlong wanted to bring his people to the surface world, adapting Queen Atohem's worldview after a human saved Fisher Tiger's life. Mihawk wanted to become the strongest swordsman in the world. Hancock wanted to be by him when he becomes king. And these powerful, unique individuals were united as a team under the flag of the Straw Hat Grand Armada. Thus on that day, it was only right that the predator consumed the prey. Sabati Archipelago. It took the Straw Hats another week to travel to Sabati Archipelago. It was there that they would meet their newest comrade, predetermined by Luffy, as soon as he was able to grasp his new reality. Brook, poor Brook, who had been floating aimlessly around the Florian Triangle, unable to move on to the next life due to his cursed fruit ability. But Luffy was not going to let him live that life for another decade. The Straw Hats arrived in Port 7, an area where the most ruthless and lawless pirates and citizens alike. Though everyone froze in place as soon as the Straw Hats set foot into the archipelago once more. Though this time, they were stronger than the last time they were there. Luffy was the first person to step on the land, followed by Hancock and Mihawk. Then Arlong, Lucci, and Katakuri brought up the rear. Burlee was tasked to remain on the ship to act as a communication hub as well as to guard their ship. Her mirror shards were a much easier way to communicate with one another, but they still had their mini snails just in case. Remember to watch my perimeter while me and Hancock get my friend. Luffy commanded, to which his crew nodded their head. Burlee, keep tabs on everyone. Luffy said to a shard of mirror, to which Burlee responded with a salute, then he placed it on his short pocket. Katakuri and Arlong casually walked towards the path that led to the right area. Whereas Lucci and Mihawk took up the left area, forming a perimeter around their captain. The plan was simple. Get Brook and get out. But in terms of execution, well, that might be a problem seeing as Luffy wreaked havoc the last time he was here. Boy, are you Mugiwara, a tough-looking rookie pirate approached him, rudely blocking his way. But Luffy didn't have time for him as he simply grabbed his face and slammed it on his left knee. He then looked at all the surrounding pirates, bounty hunters, and marine officers who were looking at him as if they have already claimed his $1 billion bounty. He continued to walk forward, not uttering a single word, leaving the tough-looking pirate on a pool of his own blood, his facial bone broken in many places. The Emperor Haki which he was releasing was intense, and Hancock was similarly displaying her own Empress Haki. Many people who were close enough to experience their combined might passed out immediately, unable to counter the aura. It took another 20 minutes for Luffy and Hancock to arrive at Shaki's rip-off bar. The woman in question stood behind her bar counter, where she held her face up by her right hand, an amused look on her face. "Hi, how may I help you?" she asked, and Hancock looked at her, recognizing her slightly. She looked so familiar but she couldn't really point it out. "I'm here for my friend, my name is Luffy." Luffy and Hancock approached and declined an invitation to sit on the bar stools. "Ah, that Aladdin fellow brought in someone over a week ago. He told me that a Luffy would come for him." She brought out her cigarette and smoked one. She offered it to her guests, in which they declined. "My, how you've grown, Hancock." To this Hancock finally remembered who it was. "Ah, Miss Silvers." To which Shaki simply smiled and another person joined the group. "You must be Mugiwara." An older gentleman joined them, to which Hancock immediately ran to him to give him a hug. "Mr. Silvers." she exclaimed before embracing the old man. And then she let go of him and looked at Luffy. "Luffy, this couple helped me and my sisters escape during Fisher Tiger's rebellion. He was the one to bring us to Amazon Lily. For that I thank you, Silvers, really." Luffy took out his hands, to which the former Roger Pirate's vice captain took. Nothing measures a man like a good handshake. His grip was tight, but so was Luffy's. They finally let each other go, to which Hancock was looking at them, confused at the sudden tension. But Shanks diffused it with a hearty laugh, to which Luffy joined in. "You have to be Luffy then. Shanks told me a lot about you when you were here last time. Caused quite a fuss. He did tell me that you were going to be in trouble." "Yes, sorry about that, really. Anyway, you have my friend." Luffy looked at the back room which Shaki pointed out earlier. "Yeah, right back there." To this, Luffy finally opened the door in the back room, where an afro was noticeably sticking out of a high chair. His friend was sitting in front of a window, facing the opposite of the entranceway. In his hands was a violin, and he was playing a song directly from his soul. His voice was quite somber. Yet the spirit of the song was still there. Gather up all of the crew. It's time to ship out Bink's brew. Sea wind blows to where, who knows? The waves will be our guide. Or across the ocean's tide, the sunset is gone wild. See the sky. Birds singing in circles passing by. Bid farewell to Weaver's town. Say so long to port renowned. It pained him, as every step he took closer to his friend, he could feel each word that was sung that day. If only he could have brought him in sooner, if only he went to Brook first thing as he went back in time. To save him from his loneliness. But then again, things wouldn't have happened as they were if he met any time sooner. He let him finish. Sing a song, it won't be long before we're casting off. Cross the gold and silver waves, changing into water sprays. Sailing out on our journey to the ends of the sea. Gather up all of the crew. Time to ship out Bink's brew. Pirates we'll divide and conquer all the seas. But the waves to rest our heads, ship beneath us as our bed. Hoisted high up on the mast our Jolly Roger flies. Somewhere in the endless sky, a storm has started coming by. Waves are dancing having fun, it's time to sound the drums. If we let blow winds of fear then the end of us is near. Even so, tomorrow the sun will rise again. Hey Brook. He gently placed his violin on the side of his chair, then he stood and slowly turned his body to look at Leaf. The skeleton man smiled at the man with the straw hat. For he was told that this was the man who requested for his rescue. There were a lot of questions in his mind, but another time for now, a wave of comfort engulfed him at finally meeting the man's eyes. You must be Leaf, words can't express, all I can say is thank you. Leaf pulled up a chair and relieved the story of Brook's life. It was something he knew before, but to be able to get the story once more and to once again relieve his struggles with losing the Rumber Pirates, it was tough. Meanwhile, Hancock had been catching up with Rayleigh and Shaki, updating them on their status and how she joined the Straw Hat Pirates. You've gotten really big since we last saw you, little one. Shaki commented as the trio sat on a booth. It wasn't busy anyway, so they took a little break. She sat beside her husband who had his arms around her. How long has it been? 5 or so years, I think. Hancock was thinking of the date that they arrived in Amazon Lily, for the life of her she could not remember. Yeah, something I can't remember it either. To this they shared a laugh. Rayleigh then had some questions for the Snake Princess. I heard you joined the Royal Shichibukai. Well, yes, I joined to protect my people. You see, I became the Empress of Amazon Lily due to my devil fruit ability and fighting prowess. She then played with a mini heart manifested from her power on the palm of her hands. But I declared my loyalty to Leaf. She sighed at saying his name, this did not fail to be noticed by the couple. So how long have you two been together? Shaki knew that look, she was once a love-struck young girl. Well, no, Hancock feigned surprise, but the Dark King and his lady were not buying it. Right, little one, spill it. Rayleigh said with an amused smile. Then she looked at Shaki, then back at Rayleigh, she was found out. Well, it was actually about a week, then she continued to tell them about their current relationship, definitely leaving the physicality of their relationship out of the conversation. Katakuri and Arlong stood by checking the surrounding for any potential threat. So you and my sister, huh? Katakuri had been simply observing, but the arm around each other and disappearing for a long period of time was suspicious. Well, you see, she's an amazing woman and she makes me a better person. Katakuri then got close to his face. I'm warning you, Arlong. Arlong thought that Katakuri was going to hold his race against him, all humans did before. Crewmate or not, if you hurt her, I'll kill you myself. Got it, bro. Arlong took a big gulp but quickly recovered. So that means you're practically my bro now, right? Suddenly, something moved a couple 100 yards from their current location. They noticed movement and are now monitoring it. Mihik and Lucci were doing the same, but they found troubling movement. Captain. Lucci pulled out his mirror shard. To which Leaf was unable. Crap, there were about 300 Marines moving towards their location. Boa. He called on the shard, to which Brule, while watching over the ship, routed the mirror call to Hancock. Yes, I have joined him in his journey, I feel that he will be king. Hancock was in the middle of talking with Rayleigh and Shaki when a call came in from Lucci. Boa, emergency. Lucci said to the mirror shard. What's going on? Hancock excused herself and went to take the message. 300 Marines have circled our location and slowly closing in. We've been pinned in the middle. Lucci transmitted. Then another person manifested on the call, this time it was Katakuri. The Marines are clever, making minimal movement to avoid detection. But we are monitoring. What are the captain's orders? Katakuri had been trying to reach Leaf to no luck. He's not available at the, but before Hancock could finish, Leaf and Brook emerged from the room, grasping each other by the shoulder, laughing at something Brook said. Brook was a tall skeleton figure, standing at a jaw-dropping height of 8 feet. To those who were ignorant to the strange world of the Grand Line, Brooke would scare the crap out of them, but to Hancock, who quite possibly could have seen everything, was not fazed slightly. So this must be the woman who encompassed your heart. Brooke comically floated to Hancock but fell on his face. Ouch. Hancock rushed to help him up, but Brooke immediately turned his head and sneaked to pick up Hancock's dress. "May I see your panties?" To which Hancock responded by stomping on his face. Classic Brooke, glad that part of him was still him. But Luffy could sense tension in the perimeter, something was definitely not right. He pulled out the mirror from his pocket and found that Katakuri and Lucci were continuing to try and call him. "Luffy, a message from Lucci and Katakuri." She paused her beatdown of Brooke to relay the message to which Luffy took immediately. Status. He got careless, after conversing with his friend, he forgot about their current position deep in enemy territory. "Captain, about 300 Marines have surrounded our position. They are slowly moving in on your location," relayed Lucci. His and Mihawk's location was currently on the roof of a fairly tall building. Marines were passing them by as they relayed the information to Luffy. They seem to be led by one Rear Admiral, I do not recognize the name, but he seems to be strong. Katakuri remained in his spot, hiding on a tree branch way up in the air. The Marines were passing by below his and Arlong's position. Alright, listen carefully. Burly. The mirror call shifted into the three faces that he needed to speak with. "Yes, Captain." Burly was hiding behind the deck railing. "Some pirates have taken notice of their ship. Many were attempting to survey if anyone was aboard so that they could board it and raid it. Burly has been projecting mirror clones all around the ship, hopefully they don't notice the clones. Burly, I need you to get ready, cause shit's about to get wild." With a smirk on his face, Luffy gave his command as the captain gave out the order to his people. "Clear out the field." With that order, shit did indeed go down. As with this order, wherever the Strawats were, they smiled. "What is happening?" Brooke got up from the ground and looked at Hancock and Luffy, who were smiling at his orders. "Brooke, my goal is to be the king, my crew will now prove why I should be king. Care to join us?" Luffy explained his command, to which Brooke smiled and pulled a blade out of his cane. He swung it left and right before holding it to his side. "You saved my life, I'm with you, Captain." To this Luffy smiled and shit did indeed go down. Luffy went outside, gave his woman a kiss before disappearing in a blur. "So what now?" asked Brooke. Although he pledged his allegiance to the Strawat captain, he was still a bit confused on what is going on. "Captain's orders is to make our names known, so go crazy." To this Hancock waved Shaki and Rayleigh goodbye before heading north. Brooke followed right after her, finally understanding what they needed to do. Pirates were defined by notoriety, and this will shoot them close to the top. "Those kids are crazy," commented Rayleigh, who closed the door to the bar as their guest left. "Yes, but you do see it, don't you?" Shaki commented as she joined her husband and gave him an embrace. "Aye," the look in his eyes is reminiscent of Roger. Grove 66 Abadi Marine HQ. Report in, status Team 1. The lead for the ambush on the Strawat pirates was left to the care of a Vice Admiral, but which one was it? Vice Admiral, Team 1 is in position, awaiting Team 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Replied the second in command of the ambush, Rear Admiral Mazambia. Each unit consists of 50 well-trained Marine officers. One of the 6 units is led by a Rear Admiral, the rest were led by a Marine captain, and the overall force was led by an unknown Vice Admiral. How did they know Mugiwara was coming? Well, Cipher Pole's last transmission involved the complete and systematic defeat of the entire Special Division. In the massacre, a lone agent managed to tag the Strawat ship with a tracking snail, one in which they were able to use to keep tabs of the Strawat's destination. Team 2 in position awaiting orders. Team 3 in position ready to board enemy pirate ship. Team 4 ready at your command. Team 6 ready. What the hell happened to Team 5? The members of Team 6 were led by a muscular man wearing his open marine coat to show his muscular body. His mouth consisted of 3 cigars as he puffed them heavily. "Captain Smoker, Team 5 is not responding," exclaimed the communication expert in his unit. "Oh? What do you mean Team 5 has disappeared? 50 men can't just disappear in thin air." Within Grove 66, the Vice Admiral listened as feeds from multiple units were disappearing. Vice Admiral Unit 2 is then static emptiness. Vice Admiral Unit 3 is under attack by light beams. "Ah. Sir, please help, this is Unit 4. Oh, not good." The Vice Admiral rubbed his goatee, using his other hands to fix his sunglasses. "Fine, I will do it myself, yo." He began to dissipate in a million light particles, but his transformation ended before the Vice Admiral could move from his position. The man with the Strawat ripped the roof off of the Grove 66 Marine HQ. Their target, the super pirate with a bounty of 1 billion Biri, stood on the roof of the Marine HQ, staring down at the Vice Admiral. "Mugiwara. Hello, Vice Admiral Borsellino, we meet again." The man whose reputation had been tarnished by the defiance of Mugiwara would not take any more chances as he swiftly shifted into light particles, manifesting his light blade on his right hand. Borsellino immediately went for the head, slicing it at the speed of light. And to the light user's surprise, his head was gone. Couldn't be that easy nah. Borsellino commented as his body was still in the posture of swinging his light blade on Mugiwara's head. Nope. Luffy had retracted his head back, anticipating the attack from the Vice Admiral, thank you future sight. He then retrieved his head, giving Borsellino a headbutt, square on his forehead. Borsellino was knocked back slightly, catching his nose from the blood that dripped freely. I should have expected you would know hockey, the government doesn't just hand out bounties. He then let the blood settle down and shook himself to form. Alright Mugiwara, you will get it, me actually trying. And in a matter of millisecond, Borsellino had disappeared in the naked eye. But Luffy was ready for it. But Katakuri and Arlong. Meanwhile, Katakuri and Arlong made quick work of Unit 2 and Unit 4. Katakuri had unleashed his mastery and his devil fruit, skillfully weaving through the wave of enemies. Arlong continued to show his strength by honing his fishman karate and unleashing his training within a real-world setting. Thousands of palm strikes, left and right hook kicks etc. are paying off big time. Bro catch. Arlong was enjoying the acceptance in which Katakuri gave him, not just with Broly, but also his humanity. The fishman threw Katakuri two marine officers who attempted to stab him in the back. Don't get careless. Katakuri kicked the two marines out of the air and to the ground, but manifested a trident to throw at Arlong. But it truly wasn't aimed at him, it was aimed at the marine behind him. The trident pierced the marine, and Arlong immediately understood what Katakuri did for him. Got it? Arlong returned the favor by catching bullets in mid-air with a stream of water Arlong pulled out of the ground. The bullets that were aimed at Katakuri fell on the ground, and he immediately went after them before they could shoot their guns again. That's the end of that. Katakuri knocked the air out of a surviving marine officer by stomping on his chest. Thanks bro for a man who looked after his entire family under Big Mom, becoming the perfect brother and feared amongst those who defied him to be accepted within his family. Well, it was an amazing moment. Anytime bro. Arlong replied with a smile. He then turned his body to not show the tears that escaped from his eyes because he was crying, tears of absolute joy. Broly, we are heading your way right away, hold your position. After annihilating Unit 2 and Unit 4, Broly was surrounded by Unit 3. Bro, I wouldn't worry about it. Arlong commented after turning around, his eyes still red from shedding some tears. What do you mean? Katakuri continued to dash to Grove 7, where their ship was currently situated. Arlong was close behind, keeping pace. Well you see during our free time, we got physical. The way he said it, Katakuri thought of something else. In which he took 1 second to punch Arlong over the head. Not like that bro. Really physical, like training. Oh, so get to it then. Alright we're here now anyways. Arlong increased his pace and overtook Katakuri. And to his delight, the results were as expected. As Katakuri joined him on the top of the hill, he immediately understood what he meant. Ah, you did this Broly. Katakuri called out to the top of the ship where Broly was waving at them with a giant smile on her face. Yes brother I did. I used the mirror deflection technique that me and Arlong worked on together. She yelled back, in which Arlong joined her on board and gave her a massive embrace. Katakuri joined them right after, still amazed by her fighting prowess. Good job Broly. He commented as bodies of Unit 3 covered Grove 7. Broly had unleashed her ultimate attack to clear out the enemy marines who were closing in on her position. Now to wait for the rest of the crew. They could go back and assist them, but they wouldn't like that, they fight their own battles. In the time they have gotten to know each other, Katakuri understood the power of each individual in that crew, but none more so than Captain Luffy, that man was on another level. But Lucci and Mihawk were busy as well, though they hit a wall, the wall who happened to be Captain Smoker of Unit 6. But it wasn't like either one of the pirates was concerned. Rob Lucci, I know you by name, seeing you in person, I am not impressed. Captain Smoker was a strong, upstart marine captain who rose through the ranks with ease. And Mihawk, you're stupid for not taking the government's offer. With that statement, Mihawk went for a vertical slash across the chest of the marine captain. Fine you can have him, I'll deal with the lackeys. Lucci gave the battle to Mihawk while he punched and kicked his way through Unit 6's 50-man unit. Dracula Hawkeye Mihawk vs Marine Captain Smoker. Mihawk kept his sword pointed at the marine captain, knowing that one slash couldn't be the end of it. Smoker did indeed return to form, his entire body was covered in white smoke. White smoke? You must be a fruit user then. Commented Mihawk. So what of it? Smoker shifted the cigar in his mouth and pulled his tofa from his belt holster. He then made his lower body white smoke and his upper body remained normal. He rushed forward meeting Mihawk at blade point. Eat shit Hawkeye. Smoker persisted forward but Mihawk pushed him backwards. I'd rather not, and I have a place to be. Mihik pushed him backwards, creating a small space in between them. And with his black blade, Mihik used it as a fan and blew Smoker farther away from him. The cocky Marine captain couldn't believe it when Mihik's blade went actually cut him across his chest. Blood began to seep through as his confidence suddenly disappeared, fear overtaking his thoughts. How the hell it was instantaneous, the swordsman fanned his blade, causing him to be sent backwards, and then the distance was cleared by the swordsman, and now his chest was cut. Warriors who rely on devil fruits are no warriors at all. To this Mihik continued walking forward as Smoker collapsed on his face. Lucci was finished with the 50 Marines that were sent to ambush them. "Good job on your fight," commented Lucci as he joined Mihik on their walk back to Grove 7. "Not much of a fight really." Mihik shrugged. And the duo continued their way to the ship. "You did well on your battle as well." "Yeah, I guess, back in Cipher Full, this is a regular occurrence for me." "Interesting, whenever we have free time, care for a spar?" Other than Luffy, Mihik has yet to fight anyone that challenges him, maybe Charlotte Snack, but that wasn't too difficult. "Sure." The rest of the way, the two warriors walked casually to their ship. Finally arriving when Katakuri and Arlong had rejoined with Brule. Now all that is missing is Hancock, the Brook guy that kept being mentioned by Luffy, and of course Luffy. But Brook and Hancock. "You're formidable, Brook-san." Hancock had delivered a deadly hook kick at the neck of a Marine who charged at her. "Yes, well, may I see your panties now?" Brook began but was met with a fist over his skull. "Ouch, ouch. Enough of this." Rear Admiral Mazambia held himself up with his sword. His entire unit had been wiped out, he was the last man standing. He trembled as he tried to regain his balance. "Rear Admiral, I insist," began Hancock, but the Rear Admiral drew his sword, pointing it at the two strawwets. "Hancock, this treachery to the world government will not go unpunished." He then looked at Brook. "And you are Rumber Pirate Vice Captain Brook, what happened to you?" It wasn't a question, but more of a statement on his skeletal appearance. "I'm still me," retorted Brook, who despite all his losses, hopefully found a new home with the Strawwet Pirates. "Justice will be though." Mazambia collapsed, finally succumbing to exhaustion. Unit 1 had been defeated by Hancock and Brook. Unit 5 on site, Vice Admiral. "Hello, Vice Admiral." Brook and Hancock looked at the direction of 50 Marine officers who went to their location to probably give Unit 1 some backup. Both Brook and Hancock looked at each other with a smile. "More practice." Monkey D. Louis versus Vice Admiral Borsellino. "Vice Captain, help Unit 5," exclaimed over the line, but static shock replaced the voice of the Marine officer. "Your fights with me, Borsellino." Louis unleashed a plethora of punches, raining down on the Vice Admiral, but the Vice Admiral turned into his element, light, absorbing the punches through his body. "Ooh, you earned a bounty of 1 billion for being hot-headed." But Borsellino found his face caught in the end of a punch infused with black resin substance that could only signify hockey. The punch sent the Vice Admiral flying back, but Luffy was not done with him as he continued to barrage the man while still mid-air with more punches. "Don't worry, Borsellino, I won't kill you. But tell your Marine buddies to get off my back or they will be next." Luffy then stamped at the side of Borsellino's head, creating dent on the earth where his foot impacted the ground. He was Vice Admiral Borsellino, a man whose light fruit is the pinnacle of Loja-type devil fruits. And here he was, manhandled by a teenage rubber boy. "Oh, headquarters is not going to like this," Borsellino said as he could not move an inch of his body. Just a couple weeks ago, he had been defeated by the combined effort of Mugiwara, Arlong, and Hawkeye, and now he was beaten handily by Mugiwara himself. This man is going to be a problem. And he has yet to gather his fleet. What a scary thought. Luffy stepped over the fallen Vice Admiral and walked to Grove 7, each step people began to kneel at his presence. They saw him as a god amongst man, but more importantly, they respected him. Borsellino was left to his own thoughts. "With this power, I should be steamrolling through these brats. Maybe it's time to really try. Thank you Mugiwara, you have shown me my limits." He passed by the grove which housed the former auction house, he was happy to find that it was still closed down. He waved at Shaki and Rayleigh who stood at the top of their bar and they waved back at him with a smile on their faces. Finally he was back to his crew, he was the last to arrive as everyone was already on board. "Welcome back." Hancock immediately went for a hug with her man. He planted a kiss on her lips before addressing the rest of the crew. "I assume that everyone's battle went well." He looked around, not a single one of his people was injured. Mihik stood by Katakuri with Brule and Arlong talking to each other about something right next to him. Then Lucci sat on a barrel right next to Brook who was conversing. Hancock was by him as he held her by her waist. Everyone stopped what they were doing and listened to the captain. "We met a snot-nosed brat Marine captain, he had white smoke emitting from his body. A Loja type, could be trouble in the future." Mihik commented. Louis found this interesting, Smoker was a captain this early. He must have done something stupid to still be a captain in his actual timeline. No trouble with the unit sent our way either. Added Lucci, who sat on a barrel. This bow handled the rear admiral with no trouble. Brooke interjected, trying to bring light to Hancock's accomplishment. No, you had as much to do with that. Though Katakuri decided to move one. We took care of the Marines on our end. Aye, we did indeed. Cooed Arlong, who was still happy about being called Katakuri's bro. Good job everyone. And from here on out, Brooke will join our crew. Everyone either gave him a handshake, a hug, or just placed a hand on his shoulders or his bone shoulder. Bone joke yo ho ho ho. Due to clearing out the Marine forces in Sabati, Luffy was in no rush to set sail just yet. We are getting big enough to start defining our crew role. Now my end goal will always be to obtain an armada big enough to challenge the Yonkos. Eventually I want each and every one of you to head a division. Taking some inspiration from the old man, of course. He was referring to Whitebeard, but not all of them understood that reference. What do you mean, Captain? Brooke was the one to ask. You will all lead your own division while I am the overall leader of the entire pirate Grand Armada. And then he fired off with the Grand Armada commanders. 1st Commander Katakuri, 2nd Commander Mihik, 3rd Commander Lucci, 4th Commander Arlong, along with Bruley, 5th Commander Brooke. How about me, darling? Hancock asked, confused that she did not have her own division. If I am to be king, then you will be one of my queens. Hancock took note of being one of Luffy's queens, but it would be a conversation for later. Any comments or concerns? Luffy looked at his people, not one of them had shown any questions. He has shown them his will to be the best, and they are there to emanate his will. Alright then, next course of action. Alabasta. And with that, the mold of the Straw Hat Grand Armada was finally forming. The journey to Alabasta was a lively one. Arlong was their navigator, being a fisherman, the sea was his playground. So what's our path if we were to go to Alabasta from Sabati Archipelago? Luffy had a map of the world in front of him, though it was still incomplete. The woman who should complete this map is still 12 years too young to join him on his journey. Alright boss, so we can go through the calm belt, those who have no fruit abilities can send the Sea Kings away. Arlong looked at Mihik and Lucci, who both nodded their heads in agreement. He was busy with the rudder, so he could not help with the battle. Then we can go through East Blue, back up to Reverse Mountain, and we'll be in Alabasta in no time. Good plan, but can we stop by some places? Luffy asked. Well yeah, of course, Captain, you are the captain after all. Where to? Arlong asked, to which Luffy took the pencil from Arlong and marked 4 places. Ah okay, Captain. The journey through the calm belt was fun, as Mihik and Lucci had some training against gigantic sea kings. The rest of the crew did their duties as Luffy watched over them, and as planned, the Straw Hats bypassed the calm belt once more and entered the East Blue. Now for Luffy's first destination, it was a small town right by Dawn Island. It was a little island known as Shimitsuki Village. The ship docked on the only port of the small island, and Luffy took Mihik with him, for he had a plan. The rest of the crew remained on the ship, loading up on supplies for their long journey ahead. Captain, who is this person you want me to meet? Mihik was walking beside Luffy as they attracted attention from the villagers. Nobody has ever seen a person who carried a massive sword before, and Luffy, well, he looked like a normal person to them. Little did they know. He's right there. Luffy and Mihik stood in an open field with a lone tree and a young green-haired swordsman slicing at the air with 3 wooden swords. One in each hand and another in his mouth. Hey kid, your form is a bit off. Commented Luffy. He knew that this kid was not his first mate from his timeline, but maybe Mihik can throw in some pointers to get him on a much more accelerated path. Shut it, old man, I know what I'm doing. The young green-haired swordsman responded, though his back was still turned at the 2 people that were trying to talk to him. Your swing is too wide, try it in one fell motion like this. Mihik picked a stick from the ground and sliced at the air. The swing caused a cut in the air, causing the green-haired swordsman to finally turn and face them. Teach me this technique. He exclaimed. It is not a technique, it is the basics. Mihik replied. What's your name? Asked Luffy, knowing the answer. My name is Roronoa Oro, and my goal is to beat a certain someone. He exclaimed. Luffy knew who it was, but he couldn't let off that he knew more. I am Dracula Mihik. And this is my captain, Monkey D. Luffy. Mihik, stay with the kid for a couple of hours. Then rejoin us back on the ship. Show him something good. Said Luffy as he left the 2 to train. Mihik was confused on why he should train this random swordsman, but it was captain's orders. Alright kid, what do you know about the blade? And so it began. Aboard the ship of the Straw Hat crew, everyone was bored out of their mind. Why are we on this island? Complained Arlong, though Bruley and Hancock were happily chatting amongst one another. Katakuri was showing Lucci a breathing technique while Brooke was practicing his swordsmanship. Make use of your time, Arlong. Come join us. Responded Katakuri while Lucci was doing the breathing technique before him. Fine, so what are you guys doing? It better be cool. To this Katakuri smirked, revealing his fang-like teeth. None of the crew was giving him a hard time about it, none of them expected him to be perfect. It was an amazing feeling to just be himself. "Go ahead Lucci, activate your armament haki." To this Lucci complied. And sure enough his hands were covered in resin-like substance. What? The strange thing was, Lucci still had his haki active, even though previously he can only hold it for 5 seconds. "Whoa, teach me." Arlong had been wasting time lollygagging that he could have used to train in learning haki. "Sure thing, so begin with your breathing." The trio went to work, learning about the essential of haki through Katakuri. It took only another few hours for Leaf to arrive, opting to rest in his quarters with Hancock. Then, as the sun finally set on the horizon, Mihawk returned on board with a noticeable wound on his left arm. "Hey, what happened?" asked Brook, who was the first to greet Mihawk. "But Zoro." "Hey Zoro. We missed you in class today." A young blue-haired girl approached Zoro in the same tree that he had been training at since earlier. She held a sword in her hand, keeping careful care of it. Kuina, my hands are still trembling with excitement. A great swordsman just showed me a couple of things." "Like what?" "Listening to the blade and becoming one with it. He even let me use his blade and I was able to cut him." "Surya Zoro, anyway master is looking for us. Let's go." Kuina held Zoro's hands and pulled him, leading the way. A smile formed in the lips of the young green-haired swordsman. "The voice of my blade. What does it mean?" "Back on the ship." Nothing at all." Mihawk retreated to his sleeping quarters to take care of his small wound. In his mind the event from earlier was as clear as day. He let the kid carry his blade due to the captain seeing something in him. He dueled the kid with using his necklace blade. Then the kid cut him by simply using the things he taught him all within a few hours. Whoever that kid was, he's going to be a major power in the world. Before reaching his room, he passed by the captain's quarter where as he passed the front of the room, Leaf opened it and greeted him with a smile. "Captain I." He was going to explain what happened and why he had a wound, but Leaf shook his head, knowing full well the potential that the young green-haired swordsman had. "Get some rest Mihawk, we're going to move on to the next island." With this Leaf ran to the deck and instructed Arlong on the next destination. Just a little place known as Echo Island Syrup Village. As the sun was rising, once again the crew anchored in the distance. Leaf instructed the crew to get some supplies once more, as much as they could trade for with the villagers. The problem with the smaller towns that they were stopping at was that they had limited supplies. Regardless, there was a reason that Leaf went to this island and he brought Katakuri with him. Mihawk trained a powerful swordsman yesterday, this stop won't happen to be another training for some unknown person would it? "You'll see Katakuri." Leaf said with a smile as in the distance, he could see him, the biggest liar in the entire world, but one of his bestest friends. He nudged Katakuri as the young man revealed himself. "Halt!" yelled a kid with goggles over his banana and a long pointy nose. He had his finger pointed at Leaf and Katakuri. "Pirates beware. I am Captain Usopp and I command you to return to where you came from or else my 100,000 army will destroy you." "Captain, you have got to be kidding me." "Go ahead and challenge him." Leaf ordered, to which Katakuri easily restrained Usopp, slamming his face on the ground. "Ouch, that was a bit excessive wasn't it Katakuri?" "Sorry Captain." "Who are you people? Help. My dad is a world-famous pirate. I swear he'll get you," exclaimed Usopp as he trashed violently on the ground. "You're obviously hungry to get stronger Usopp, would you like to learn something that will make you a great warrior one day?" Leaf knew what Usopp would want to hear and worked to calm the young man. "Yes, show me please mister." Usopp was released from Katakuri's grip. And he shot up, jumping up and down and eager to learn. "Katakuri, teach him what you can about observation haki." Before Leaf left, he had some words of wisdom for the young man. "Usopp, before I go, I want to tell you that whatever you learn from Katakuri today use it, harness it and grow from it because in 7 years' time, a strange butler will show up and I would like you to beat the crap out of him and tell him this." Leaf whispered something in Usopp's ear before giving him a pat on the head and similar to what he did with Mihawk and Zoro, left the two to train. "Alright kid, the captain obviously sees something in you, but I don't know what you can learn in a few hours but here goes." And thus Katakuri began showing Usopp the basics of observation haki. Back on the ship. Lucci had picked Katakuri's brain the previous day for some pointers in armament haki and now since Katakuri was brought along by the captain, he went to Hancock for some pointers in lower extremities combat, which she is proficient in. "Your legs are 4 times stronger than your arms, so if you hit something." Hancock had given a rising sidekick on a wooden dummy, causing a loud crack. Right. Lucci was absorbing everything like a sponge. Being one of the youngest of the crew, he was eager to learn and more importantly, he was eager to kill whoever the woman was that killed his family. So he followed Hancock's instruction and even took note of her form and the area in which she started her momentum. Every movement had a purpose, he had to hone this. We'll have to hold off on the lesson for the time being, I will be retiring along with the captain for the day. Lucci had a massive sweat drop form over his head. He understood well enough what they were doing in there. Surely enough, Luffy returned once more, but this time he gave out an order. Once Katakuri returns, Arlong, please set course to the coordinates I gave you. Aye, Captain, but this is going to the middle of nowhere. No, it's definitely going to be a place we need to be. Luffy was immediately pulled in the room as Hancock could not wait any longer. Well, where is it on the map? Burley asked as she looked at the coordinates marked by Arlong. Lucci and Brook joined them and it was just water. Meanwhile in the room, Luffy was on a call with Aladdin, once again thanking him for his help. Aladdin, thank you for the coordinates, are you sure this is where they will be? Aye, Luffy, I have seen them with my own eyes. Are you sure you don't want me to help? They seem to be starving. No, I will go to them immediately, something needs to happen in his mind, he finished the sentence with an order for him to grow. Alright then Luffy, anyway I got to go. Whitebeard has assembled a massive army of all his allies, he is planning something big, call any time. And Aladdin dropped the call leaving Luffy in his thoughts. Babe. Hancock called out, to which Luffy turned to look at her. Holy shit, Luffy was speechless as all she wore were transparent bikini top and bottom. Do you like what you see? She said seductively. All he could do was nod his head. Come here and don't make me wait anymore. And like a hungry animal, Luffy immediately went to work to please his woman. Later that day as once again the sun disappeared from the sky, Katakuri returned. So how did it go for you? Mihawk was the one to greet him on board. He was able to see Luffy from hundreds of yards away and his nose started bleeding furiously. I didn't want to look. Katakuri had a heavy aura about him and Mihawk picked up on what he meant. Well, regardless of the traumatic experience. At least he learned. That he did. Katakuri replied with a smile. Before Luffy returned to the ship there was someone he needed to see. So he made his way to Syrup Village, where there was the bedridden mother of the young man. Hello, Banchina. Luffy had knocked on the door and let himself in. The sickly woman could not bring herself to get up. Your straw hat reminds me of the nice red-haired man whom I Yasop joined to venture off and find a cure for my disease. Who might you be? She asked weakly. She did not get a lot of visitors, mostly Usopp who is her own son, so seeing a new person was surprising, but a welcome sight. My name is Luffy and I am a friend of Usopp's. He then approached her bedside, gently grabbed her hand and gave her a blue vial. Please take this, the fishman people are so advanced that they are ahead of the human population. This medicine was created by them in order to target destructive viruses that are aggressively deteriorating the body. Luffy did not know what disease Banchina had, but he was sure from Usopp's stories that it had something to do with a virus. Thank you, but do not tell anyone, I do not want to give Usopp hope. I understand, well I have to go, but please Banchina for Usopp fight this, and I will be seeing you again. He replied with a smile before leaving the home. Banchina had watched the young man exit the room, thinking to herself how he was so composed and helpful, even though they only just met. A friend of Usopp's, huh? Somewhere in the East Blue. The next day in an unknown location in the East Blue, two people sat along a giant. One was an adult and the other was a young boy. One with an empty handkerchief once filled with food and the other with a big bag of what the young boy assumed was going to be food. So he plotted to get away to take the food from the old man. Old man. I know you have more food, give it to me now. The young blonde exclaimed while swinging a tiny knife at the old man. Shut your mouth boy, put that knife down and save what little energy you have. The blonde-haired pirate exclaimed as he looked at his right leg, contemplating whether to do it or not. He had given all the food that he could scavenge to the boy and kept the massive heap of treasure for himself. What good is the treasure if he was going to die anyway? He finally reached his resolve, he was going to do it, he was going to eat his own leg to survive. He forcefully took the tiny knife from the young boy and told him to go sit on his area. The young boy was angry but complied, stomping his feet as he went. The pirate used to be a captain who traversed the Grand Line in an amazing journey. But now he was alone in this stupid rock with this stupid boy. As he readied himself to cut his own leg for food, a hand caught his, surprising the pirate captain. He looked up and found a straw hat wearing man holding him back, stopping him from cutting his legs off. Was he already dead? Did he join the infamous Pirate King in the afterlife? The glare blinded him, but his eyes eventually returned its focus. You don't need to do it, Zeph. He said. The pirate infamous for his moniker, Red Leg Zeph, was astonished. Who were these people? The boy, despite nearing death from starvation, he was still worried about the young man. He looked at the boy's area and found that he was gone, panic rang in his mind as he felt like he was hallucinating. His name is Sanji, and he is okay, Zeph. My crew had taken him and started to give him treatment. Burley is not a doctor, but she knows how to care for people. He then extended a hand towards the relieved captain. Come join us, we'll escort you both to a safe place. Who are you? He took the man's hand and was pulled up. He walked on his own while a finely dressed man and a skeleton man picked up his treasure. Don't worry, all that treasure will be yours to do whatever you want with it. Luffy could see that the man was worried about the treasure, he was still a pirate after all. My name is Monkey D. Luffy. As you already know, my name is Zeph, they call me Red Leg. Pleasure to meet you. Responded Luffy. As they boarded the ship, Luffy already knew where their last destination would be. Arlong set a course to Konomi Island, this time you'll be going down with me. Aye aye captain. Exclaimed Arlong, glad that he can finally have a moment to train whoever that captain was so interested in, he wonders how his trainee would be. Konomi Island. It took the crew a few more days to travel to Konomi Island. In this time, they got to know the uncanny pair of Sanji and Zeph, who met by an act of faith. Sanji had been a cabin boy aboard a cruise ship, while Zeph was a pirate captain who attacked the cruise ship. And as fate would have it, a massive storm destroyed everything, leaving the two of them as the only survivors. As they arrived at Konomi Island, a harbor was actually a welcome sight as this island was more developed than the other islands they visited. Luffy was joined on the dock by Zeph and Sanji. In a few years' time, I will be back here, by then you both will be strong enough to join me on my journey to become king. Sure thing captain, I will make sure to train this kid till he can't move anymore. Zeph was carrying the sack of treasure over his shoulder while using his free hand to mess the hair of the young man. Whatever old man. I will be strong enough to be in Captain Luffy's crew. Just you wait. Exclaimed the young and eccentric Sanji. I believe it. Remember Zeph to reinforce your floating restaurant to be strong enough to withstand an armada. And make sure to keep strong people with you. Just in case. No need for that Captain Luffy, I will protect everything myself. Sanji exclaimed once more. Luffy smiled at the young man's energy. But at the same time, I will not let anyone go hungry no matter what. He had a passionate look in his eyes, Luffy knew that look, that was the same look the Sanji of his time had when he was dead set on something. Then Sanji, take care of Zeph. Yes, captain. Replied Sanji. Then the duo waved goodbye to the Strawats. It was too early to have Sanji on board and some training time with Red Leg Zeph, the legend himself, will do him wonders. Arlong, let's go. Exclaimed Luffy, now it was time to meet a certain young lady. Humming captain. Replied Arlong as he jumped to where Luffy was and joined him on their walk to Hokoyashi village. That's what you get for being such a smarty pants. Exclaimed a bigger boy as he shoved a young orange-haired girl on the ground. She was surrounded with a group of older boys who were bullying her. Eventually they got tired of pushing her around and moved on, leaving her to cry on the ground. Luffy extended a hand to the young girl, helping her up to her feet. Thank you mister, hey I never saw you around before, are you a traveler? Asked the orange-haired young lady. I am actually a traveler. My name is Luffy and this is my friend Arlong. Luffy had brought Arlong to the front who was scared to show his face. The stigma with fishman people was still rampant and it was unfair, but that's just how things were. Nice to meet you Mr. Arlong and Mr. Luffy, my name is Nami. She shook Luffy's hands and waited for Arlong to shake hers, to which he seemed to hesitate. What are you waiting for Mr. Arlong? My mom says once you shake a stranger's hands it means you are no longer strangers. Arlong took her small hands and shook it as gently as possible. You're funny Mr. Arlong. Anyway what brings you to town I can show you around if you'd like. I know this place inside and out. Nami began to speak rapidly, as a young child would. Well actually, it is you we will help, we saw how those boys were picking on you. Luffy said. Arlong was looking at him strangely, the look on his face was of confusion, why was this kid not scared of her, she was a fish man, humans hate his kind. That's because I answer all my teachers' questions they hate me cause I answer the questions but the teacher will not teach us more things, if I don't answer I just love learning. Little Nami said as she played with the ground below her, twisting her feet on the gravel. Well little one I'll teach you some self-defense. Volunteered Arlong, feeling bad for the young girl. Is that so? But I was going to show you around. You sure? Yeah, definitely but it won't be easy, you up to it? Arlong asked the young girl to which she eagerly nodded her head. Alright the fundamentals of fishman karate is repetition. First form your feet like so and your hands like this. Luffy smiled to himself and made his quiet exit. Aboard the ship Lucci was now picking Brook's combat brain as the two were engaged in an intense sparring match. Lucci managed to dodge Brook's parry while the swordsman was never on the defensive. Why can't I get through? Exclaimed Lucci, Brook's sword was too quick and too accurate. Remember Lucci, when combating a swordsman, you must take into account that the sword is an extension of a swordsman's own limb. Luffy returned to the ship to where Lucci and Brook continued to spar. And business was as usual. Though Arlong returned when the moon was at its highest. Yo Arlong. Katakuri was on night duty. He sat at the crow's nest. Hi Katakuri. Arlong continued to his room, where Broly had already passed out from exhaustion of the day. But before going down to his room, he looked up at Katakuri, who was looking at the surrounding, staying alert. Hey, Katakuri, I didn't believe it at first. I thought only you guys were nice because you've seen some crazy shit in the world, and I'm not really scary for being a fishman, but that kid did not see me for my race. She just listened and absorbed what I thought her, and then when she fell asleep from exhaustion, I asked around where her home was, and people who not even come close to me until I finally found her home by going door to door. Her mother was nice and took her in, thanking me and asking me if I wanted some tea. Well anyway, humans aren't so bad after all, was Arlong's final comment before retreating to his sleeping quarters. And Katakuri in his post at the crow's nest, the guise of the night sky, smiled to himself, glad that his friend was coming around. He caressed his teeth, the subject of the bullying he endured in his early life. I can somewhat relate. The behavior against his people is taught. People are not born evil. Thus the saga in the East Blue finally reached its end. The Straw Hat Grand Armada made some new familiar allies, had some much needed training, and was now entering the Grand Line to go to Alabasta. But Leaf had a reason for wanting to go through the Red Line. And as the crew descended from the massive waterfall, a certain blue whale greeted them with an angry look on its face, scars covering its forehead. Hi Laboon, I'm sorry it took so long, but I'm here. Brook approached his friend. Boon, yelled the massive whale as the long-lost friends finally reunited. Brook hugged the forehead of Laboon, while the whale had a happy look in his eyes. Welcome to the Grand Line. The group had a brief pit stop with Laboon, though this time they decided to bring the whale along with them on their journey. Arlong specially took a liking of the giant whale, as he decided to mount the creature and create a harness so that he could stand on its back and command it underwater. Brook found it funny but glad that the crew took his friend on their journey. Though the more peculiar case was a man who they learned was living within the stomach of the whale. It is rude to talk to someone without introductions. He held his spear on his hands as he looked over the Straw Hat pirates. My name is Crocus, blood type A and B, doctor. The group deadpanned, at first believing that he was threatening them. My name is Monkey D. Leaf, and I am the captain of this crew. He shook the doctor's hands. Then the doctor turned and looked at the skeletal man. So you came back for Laboon, glad you were able to, I was thinking you died. Crocus took the hand of Brook, the two sharing a moment. I did die with my crew and I was reborn when I met Captain Leaf. Good to hear. Anyway, my job here is done. I cared for that whale for so long, and now that he found you again, I think I'll go find another place to situate myself. Crocus had gathered what he wanted to bring with him. You can join us on our journey, we could use a doctor. Leaf asked, but he knew the man's answer before it could escape his lips. No thank you. I'm done with traveling the world. Say, do you want me to tell you about Laugh Tale? Nah, we'll find it ourselves. Sweet yourselves. Anyway, I'll be going then. Hey Crocus, I know a place called Drum Island. There's a certain blue-nosed reindeer with a human fruit. If you want, you can teach him to be the best doctor possible. I'll think about it. Crocus then dove into the water. Wait, he's swimming? Asked Broly. Crocus was the doctor of Gold D. Roger, he is far stronger than people give him credit. He's going to be alright. Suddenly, a massive sea king was launched out of the water by the swimming Crocus. He was letting the other creatures of the sea know that nobody can mess with him. See what I mean? But that the crew retreated back to their post, Arlong decided that he would ride Laboon and lead the Straw Hats to their next destination. It took them some time to reach Whiskey Peak. And, just like in the previous timeline, they were greeted by happy villagers who were actually involved in the Baroque Works organization. Leaf let things play out as his crew was treated to a feast, though none of the people were familiar to him. Funnily enough, as the moon reaches its highest point in the sky, Brook was fast asleep. Broly had eaten and drank so much along with Arlong that they were passed out in each other's arms. Leaf had pretended to be asleep, causing Hancock to fall asleep in his arms. Meanwhile, Katakuri, Mihik and Lucci were on high alert, as they caught early on that something was off. Bring some more friends, said one of the friendly villagers. I'm good, replied Lucci. They stared at each for an intense few seconds. Then the man finally broke the stare down. Alright, the gig is up. The friendly villager pulled out a pistol, pointing it at the head of Lucci. The rest of the friendly villagers followed suit as they also pointed their guns at Katakuri and Mihik. But some people had guns pointed at the sleeping Straw Hats as well. Give us all your money right now, you have fallen into the trap of Baroque Works. The who? Lucci wasn't taking them seriously, cleaning his ears as the Baroque Works agent mouthed off. Look bastard, either you comply or we kill you. Our numbers far surpass your numbers, so best lead us to your treasure. But the agent found a foot in his mouth as Lucci had enough. All hell broke loose. Katakuri trapped the people around him and Machi encasing. Mihik swung his sword to the people who had their guns pointed at Arlong and Broly. Lucci went go aid Brook, knocking out the people with a swift kick and series of punches. Leaf decided to finally open his eyes and grabbed the pistols that were pointed at him and broke them all. Hancock continued to sleep from exhaustion and 3 of the 8 strawats went to work. "Have it your way then," Leaf said with a smile as he let his 3 commanders run through the enemies as if they were nothing. And they really were irrelevant, as the sheer power of his 3 men were too much for the millions agents, even the thousands and the hundreds agents present for the party were no match for the strawats. Arlong, Brulé, Brook and Hancock eventually woke up through the commotion and joined in the one-sided fight. They had no chance at all. As Lucci held up the final member of the Baroque works by his shirt, Leaf made his way through the bodies of all the agents defeated by his group. "Good, let's move on then." At his words, his crew followed right behind him. Lucci tossed the man to the side, allowing him to survive to tell the tale of that day. "Boss," Mr. Zero said, the trembling survivor of Whiskey Peak. "Yes," replied Mr. Zero. "At this point in time, the Baroque works have been in operation in Alabasta for 4 years and some months. Mujiwara is here, Mr. Zero." He brought with him his entire crew. What would a new world powerhouse be doing in my land?" exclaimed Mr. Zero. "They are going to Alabasta now, they just left Whiskey Peak." "Mr. Zero, his crew is too much, I'm the only one conscious." But this Mr. Zero threw the snail against the wall, but luckily the snail caught itself against the wall. "What's the problem, Mr. Zero?" A cowboy hat-wearing woman stood at the doorway of Mr. Zero. She had recently been recruited to decipher the poneglyph in Alabasta for the location of the ancient weapon. All Sunday Mr. Zero was trembling with anger. "Mujiwara is here, prepare all our people. We have to let the kingdom know that we are under attack." "Alright Mr. Zero, I will let Pell know." Alabasta Kingdom, outskirts. "Hey Captain." The strawats stood right next to each other, with Leaf in the middle of the group. Arlong was in the very right end of the line with Brulé to his left, then Brook. On the other end was Brook and to his right was Mihik, Katakuri and then Hancock, who stood beside Leaf. "Yes Arlong?" Leaf asked, looking at his crewmate. "Why are the entire Alabasta forces out here intercepting us?" Before the strawat crew, Alabasta has sent out its military force to indeed intercept the strawats. The group was led by Pell, a very powerful zone-type fruit user. "Strawats, we suggest you turn back as you are not welcomed in the kingdom of Alabasta," exclaimed Pell. "1,000 strong warriors give or take," said Katakuri towards Leaf. To which he smiled at Katakuri for the information. "Pell of Alabasta, I only wish an audience with King Cobra, I have some troubling information in regards to Sir Crocodile." "Funny you would say something like that, Sir Crocodile warned us that you would try to throw some slander at him," Pell exclaimed back. He was already the commander despite being so young. Really impressive. "What I have are facts." "When did your reign stop, Pell?" "What the hell do you mean reign? Sir Crocodile is the best thing ever to happen to Alabasta. No pirates dare to invade our lands." Then Pell put 2 and 2 together. Once Sir Crocodile arrived, the rain suddenly stopped coming, turning the land into a desert wasteland. It has to be a coincidence, right? If you will not listen to reason, then I will get an audience with King Cobra by any means necessary. Leaf disappeared from where he stood. He was too fast for anyone to catch, but the next time he appeared, he unleashed a powerful palm strike at the stomach of Pell, causing the zone fruit user to gasp out of air. He doubled over, causing an uncomfortable shift to occur within the Alabasta soldiers. But 4 soldiers surrounded Leaf, each with different weapons. They were stronger than a common soldier. "We are the Tsumajiri guards of the royal family. Today you have chosen death by crossing us." Leaf looked at the 4 men that surrounded him. There was a large muscular man wielding a giant battle sword, a tall hunchback man with 2 pole arms for a weapon. Then there was a tall and thin man who wielded a double-edged sword. Lastly there was a bulky man who wielded a large axe. "Today gentlemen, I choose to meet your king in peace." With that Leaf disappeared once more in a blur, leaving behind a large cloud of steam in his wake. "We don't want Captain to have all the fun now." Brook twisted his cane as the rest of the ground began to move forward. The Tsumajiri guards attempted to chase after Leaf but was stopped by 1 man. Katakuri had moved ahead of the group to confront the fiercest warriors of Alabasta. The rest of the strawats dealt with the 1,000 men of Alabasta's main battle force. "Remember," Captain said, "do not kill," relayed Mihik. "Yeah, when do I ever kill for fun?" Arlong gave a toothy grin before jumping ahead, kicking 2 guards at once and tossing another guard to a large crowd. "There he goes again, acting all cool." Brulé commented, she was once again backline as this suits her ability best. Then Hancock gave her a sly smile for her comment. "You like it though?" she commented before joining the battle as well. With the command of her dearly beloved, Hancock did not activate her devil fruit ability and went into battle with only using blunt force to shut down the army. Mihawk followed after with using the dull end of his blade, and Lucci was using his mastery of Rakishiki, though he held back from killing his opponents. Brook had a trick up his sleeve, his slices were not fatal, but they were chilly, as in cold air emitted from his sword. Then there was Katakuri, who fought the Tsumajiri guards. If he wanted to, he could probably encompass them in Machi and call it a day, but he needed to hone his other skills, he chose to instead fight them without his devil fruit, only his trident was going to be used. Hum at me at your strongest. Katakuri twisted his trident, finally resting it between his elbow and hiding it in his back. The warriors attacked as one. The big guy with the broadsword attempted to cut Katakuri in half, though he was parried by Katakuri's trident. The skinny man with the double-edged sword tried to cut his head off, and Katakuri responded by shifting his trident slightly, causing the broadsword guy to fall forward and allowing Katakuri to block the double-edged blade. He then stomped the broadsword guy over the head, knocking him straight to the ground. As far as the double-edged sword guy, Katakuri grabbed him by his face and slammed him on the ground. The two warriors were unable to battle any longer. "Ah! How could you do that to Hyota and Arrow?" exclaimed the dual palm user. "Be careful of this man, this is Dogtooth of the Big Mom Pirates," commented the axe-wielding individual. "I am First Commander Katakuri of the Strawat Grand Armada, Mujiwara is my captain," he declared, tossing his trident at the man with the dual palm. He blocked the trident with his palm, but Katakuri was just too quick, grasping his trident and pushing forward. The sheer force of Katakuri broke the palm of the warrior, causing him to fall backwards. Katakuri stood above the fallen warrior with a deadly look in his face. "Rom!" exclaimed the axe-wielding man, but Katakuri turned his head towards him. This caused shivers to travel down his spine. He was desperate, all he knew was to attack even if he was going to lose. Katakuri respected him for this, allowing the man to swing his mighty axe, though the first commander caught his axe by the palm of both hands. "But try, big man." Katakuri pushed him back by sheer power, causing the man to stumble backwards. Katakuri then jumped in the air and launched a spinning back kick upside the head of the warrior, knocking him out. In his wake, Katakuri defeated the famed Tsumajiri warriors. "No, we can't fall to a bunch of pirates." Pell attempted to get up, but the injury from Lee's initial strike was not allowing him to get up. "We are not your enemy, understanding our strength, if we wanted to, we could have overtaken your country, right?" Pell's eyes widened as he looked around. Their massive army was being manhandled by 7 strong individuals. They still had him, they still have Sir Crocodile. But where was he? Where was the hero of Alabasta? Pine was all Pell could say. "Alabasta Palace throne room. King Cobra, I advise you to escape immediately. Sir Crocodile, I will see that my country does not fall to the hands of pirates. What kind of king will abandon his own people?" King Cobra exclaimed, with his passion echoing in his sentiment. The room echoed with agreement as the meeting was taking place with the highest member of the court for King Cobra. The young blue-haired girl listened in on the meeting, she was very curious and impressionable. She stood outside of the throne room, listening through a small air filter beside the main double door to the throne room of the event that was transpiring. Though she suddenly jumped up when she felt a presence of a strong person behind her. She quickly turned around and saw a straw hat-wearing man, his red vest revealed his strong stature and he wore khaki shorts and wooden sandals. He must be a farmer. "Halt, I am Princess Vivi of Alabasta, who are you?" said the young girl, who caused a smile to form at the man before her. She was alone without her usual guard because she escaped from the confinement of her room to stoop in on the meeting. "I Princess, I am a friend, here to meet the king." "Very well, state your name." "Monkey D. Leaf." "Well, Mr. Monkey, my father is currently handling a very important problem. Your troubles with your crops will be resolved as soon as we are able to obtain some water from neighboring lands. But since you came out all this way and my father will not find out, I suppose I can grant you a barrel of water for your crops. You can find it in Alubarna and tell them Princess Vivi sent you." Finally the child finished her sentence. Leaf was surprised at how well versed she was, more so about her kindness to her people. "Princess Vivi, this matter is more important than mere crops, I will just show you." Leaf walked past the princess, opening the double door that led to the throne room. Princess Vivi was going to protest, but it was too late. King Cobra and Sir Crocodile stopped their conversation and the latter had a flabbergasted look on his face. "That is him, King Cobra. Hurry and escape. I will take care of this pirate." "Sir Crocodile, you have done so much for Alabasta and you are so loyal to me despite the voice against you as my successor. Sir Crocodile, if I die here today, with my court as my witness, I declare you to rule Alabasta until my VV comes of age." To this Sir Crocodile mouth formed into a massive grin. Then his golden hook sparkled in the light. The moment King Cobra declared a verbal succession to Crocodile was the moment he would have died. Crocodile brought his golden hook and aimed for the stomach of the king. It would have been a killing blow if it had connected. But Luffy, well, he was too quick for the warlord, using gear second to enhance hit speed and retrieved King Cobra before the hook of Sir Crocodile could reach him. Mugiwara. The king exclaimed in confusion, he was supposed to be the enemy, why did Sir Crocodile attempt to stab him? What is the meaning of this? Exclaimed King Cobra. Once you've passed on, I will be king of Alabasta, right? Sir Crocodile started with a smile on his face. No loose ends. He then pointed his hook hand at the young princess, whose neck was threatened by a small dagger. The young raven-haired woman that Luffy was ever so familiar with held the princess at knife point. No, please. Take me, not my VV. King Cobra collapsed on the ground. At the collective gasp of the crowd, nobody knew what to do. The guards attempted to get close, but they sunk on the floor by quicksand. Luffy simply observed, Crocodile was going to go on his bad guy spiel. The entire castle is surrounded by my agents, your army is stuck dealing with the Strawats. All I need to become king is to kill you. He pointed at King Cobra. You. He pointed at Princess VV. And you, Mugiwara. He pointed at Luffy and said it in such a venomous tone that if words could kill, Luffy would be dead. But why we treated you so well, you helped us against pirate invasions. Yeah, it was all for this moment. I had to become king somehow, and luckily, Mugiwara sped up my plans. Hate to break your bubble, but I'm here to do two things. Luffy interrupted, first looking at the raven-haired women holding a knife at the neck of the princess. I'm here for Nico Robin. Then he turned to Crocodile. And I'm here to kick some sense into your power-hungry ass. Robin tensed at the statement by the Strawwet man, how did he know my name? Crocodile did not know what to make of his statement. But he was worth 1 billion beery and he could not take him lightly. Fine. You want a piece of me? Then come at me. Crocodile morphed into sand and launched himself at Luffy. King Cobra, please clear the hall. My crew should arrive any time to deal with the Baroque Works agents outside. Luffy could tell that the king was concerned for his army. Don't worry, king, your army is just knocked out, I gave my crew strict instructions. Then he looked at Robin as Crocodile was quickly approaching him. Robin, I can protect you better than whatever this asshole promised you. Then as Crocodile neared him, Luffy's fist turned into a resin black color and he slammed it over the head of the warlord, knocking him onto the ground. The collective gasp echoed in the room. Robin dropped her knife in shock, allowing VV to run to her father. She trembled at the visual defeat of Crocodile, the man who was supposed to protect her from the government in exchange for her poneglyph interpretation skills. King Cobra immediately led his people outside, choosing to carry Princess VV and leaving the room immediately. If the words of the pirate was true, then King Cobra will put his faith in Mugiwara to end this mutiny. The hall finally cleared, leaving Luffy and Crocodile. The warlord quickly got up, his anger could not be contained. Shall we? Luffy's skin glowed a pink color, with steam emitting from his body. Toki, I should have known. Crocodile covered his hands with a similar resin-like substance. Alabasta Palace outside. Just as Sir Crocodile claimed, the main force of his numbered agents from MR.1 through Mr. 5, along with their partners, were present. They all stood in a line to block the way of escape for the royal family, the court and his escorts. Make way for the king. Exclaimed one of the surviving guards. But one of the crazy-haired looking guys with a red coat flicked a booger at the unsuspecting guard, then it blew up on his face, his coat caught on fire from the explosion. But a rumbling underground began and suddenly something emerged from the ground, a massive whale and a fishman on its back. Motherfuckers. Arlong emerged on the back of Laboon. They had found an underground reservoir thanks to the help of Alabasta's local sea life and took them to the capital itself. Combine that with the perfect timing and you get a grand entrance. The king's party and the Baroque Works agents jumped out of the way. Each of the members were shocked at the massive whale emerging from the dry desert ground of Alabasta. Sheesh, Arlong, you sure know how to steer some excitement. A man with a fashionable goatee, a tall hat and a slick-looking necktie that was halfway undone. His dress shirt was also a bit undone, showing his chiseled chest. He rubbed his neck as he was in the process of rolling up his sleeve at the exchange that was about to take place. Laboon landed on top of Mr. 4, a stout baseball-wielding person. Miss Goldenweek and Miss Valentine were the former holders of the rank, as these ladies were mostly nobodies, who were both unlucky enough to freeze in place when the whale emerged from the ground. Thanks, Laboon. Arlong jumped from the back of the whale, landing beside Lucci. Laboon let out a happy noise that only a whale could make and slithered back into the hole he came from, returning to the underground waterway. Mr. 5 and Mr. 3 were immediately intrigued, setting up a match between the quartet. "Babe, you left me to make a grand entrance," exclaimed Brulé, who was mainly joking. She then caught the eye of Miss Merry Christmas, who was a stout grouchy lady who looked like she would barter for 3 whole apple pies for the price of 1 apple. She was the partner of Mr. 4, who was still flattened, along with Miss Valentine and Miss Goldenweek. Disgusting all around. exclaimed Miss Doublefinger as she morphed her fingertips into sharp pointy spikes. She attempted to charge at Brule, but stopped mid-stride when she sensed danger. Good thing she did too, because if she did not stop, a powerful stomp would have crushed every bone in her body. Hancock landed in front of her, creating a crater where Miss Doublefinger should have been. "Do not try to hurt my friend, you'll answer to me." Her head was so far back that she arched her back and she pointed at the Baroque Works agent with a very intense gaze. "Why is he just watching?" Mr.2 commented as he was alone without a partner. He was strong enough to carry on his work without one, so Crocodile just let him do what he wanted. Mr. 2 was referring to Katakuri, who stood at a distance, watching the events as it transpired. "It's because there is no need for him in this battle." Brook stepped forward, each step releasing some steam from his chilling ability. Brook had learned so much about himself in the time with such powerful people that he was able to hone his devil fruit power to a new height. "Oh?" The Akama formed his signature fighting pose and a match was about to transpire between the two. "You're the strongest, then you are my opponent." Mr. 1 morphed his arms into blades, using his devil fruit ability. But someone else had a say against this. "You won't even reach him." Dracula Mihik stepped in the side of Katakuri as he drew the black blade. "I am your opponent." "Fine, you'll die as well." The king's group moved through the building tension, where the Baroque agent attempted to intercept them, the Strawats would blow their attempts. This allowed King Cobra and Princess VV to have enough time to escape to their doomsday bunker. It was said to be strong enough to withstand a buster call. Then there it was, the match of Alabasta finally set. The sun was at its highest point in the sky when Sir Crocodile was utterly and convincingly demolished by the Strawats. King Cobra and Princess VV were huddled close together at the bunker and the princess jumped up at the sound of a building collapsing in the distance. "Father, what was that loud noise?" the young girl asked, looking worriedly at her father. "Don't worry about it, dear." King Cobra held his daughter close. It felt like forever, but eventually the noise outside died down, then silence for a grueling 5 minutes. Nobody knew what was going on. "Father," it became quiet. Princess VV whispered, then a firm knock rang through the bunker, echoing throughout the chamber. Princess VV, unlike earlier, decided it was a good idea to go near the entranceway and put herself in the front of the group. "VV, come here now." The king commanded, though the princess remained unmoving. "Do not worry, father, I will protect us all." The young girl said confidently, without a weapon, armed with only her sharp will and resolve. Princess VV stood in front of the door, ready to face the possible enemies behind the doorway. Before King Cobra could join his daughter, a voice echoed throughout the chamber, though to his relief, it was an ally. "King Cobra, Princess VV, can you open the door?" If he wanted to, he could have ripped the door open, but that would not go well with his proposal. "Ah, it's Mr. Farmer." VV, despite everyone else's precaution, pressed the doorway release button, one in which opened the chamber. The people within the chamber let out a small yelp, believing that their life was coming to an end. The lights within the doomsday bunker were not very bright, so being introduced to the outside sunlight took a moment for the party to adjust. His silhouette was unique, as if he were a giant amongst men. His straw hat was prominent amongst other things, and King Cobra immediately sighed a breath of relief. "Thank you, princess, all is clear, King Cobra." Once their eyes adjusted, they finally saw him, with that contagious smile that everyone within the bunker cried in relief. The Strawats and the new recruit were all chatting amongst themselves outside the bunker. The former Baroque Works agents were still unmoving, knowing full well where they were all going. "Thank you, Mujiwara, I did not," King Cobra began. But Luffy held up his hands as if to stop the king from revealing any of his shortcomings. "A king such as yourself is someone one should admire, so King Cobra, I have come for some business. Can I have an audience?" Luffy put the power in the king's hands, he did not want the king to lose face in front of his people. "Mujiwara, once we figure out what to do with the destruction of my land on second thought, let us have a walk, Mujiwara." King Cobra left the bunker first, grabbing Luffy by the arm, directing him away from the group to have a talk. "I am humbled by your presence." Luffy commented, though once they were in the clear of the group, Luffy gave a non-verbal command for Katakuri to make them a place to talk. Katakuri nodded and understood the command, manifesting a mochi house for the two people to have a private conversation. King Cobra finally showed what he really was feeling. "I did not know that he was plotting against me, I thought that he was my friend," began the king. "As your crew went through my army, and I finally realized that we are not ready for world-threatening powers. I assume you are an emperor of the new world." "No, not there yet, but I am working towards something more than an emperor. I am working towards becoming the king of the pirates." To this King Cobra smiled, taking a seat on a well-built wax chair created by the new member of the Grand Armada. In his mind, Luffy was impressed by how easily they were able to implement Galdino into their ranks. "I see." He paused and looked at his hands. "Mujiwara, I believe that you will reach your goal, but in doing so, what do you look to accomplish?" But becoming the king of pirates, I wish to obtain the strongest family in the whole world. To end the system that is the celestial dragons, to eliminate the underworld, to control the pirates' action of this world, to unify all the kingdoms, and to ultimately destroy the corruption within the marines. Fujiwara, in order to thank you, I will be able to assist you in one aspect of your goal. The Alabasta Kingdom will raise the Strawat Grand Armada flag, pledging our support to you. The two men stared into each other, then they solidified the newfound alliance with an embrace. Thank you, King. So what is it that you needed to speak with me about? Well, that was the gist of it, an extension of my protection of your land. I also wanted to recommend calling the Marines right before you declare your land under my protection in order to take the Baroque Works agents under custody. I see, Mujiwara, then I must request something as well. In order to solidify our alliance, you must take my daughter as your bride. I am flattered by King Cobra, but she is too young to be my wife. Plus I am a firm believer in choice, so I don't really do well with arranged marriage. Once she comes of age, then, you will consider if she also wishes to be with you. He was stuck, not able to get out of this one. It's an agreement then. I am glad, Mujiwara. King Cobra laughed wholeheartedly as the duo exited the structure together. Luffy joined him, though not quite agreeing with the plan. One last thing, King Cobra. Luffy remembered where he needed to be now. Something he needs to prevent from happening. He was going to meet Joker. Would you happen to have a way to Dressrosa? I have a friendly relationship with the King Riku, I can provide you a log post to Dressrosa. Perfect. Responded Luffy. With the crew. I am Nico Robin, thank you for having me. Robin had been advised by Luffy to go ahead and introduce herself. I am Katakuri, first commander. Replied Katakuri as his arms remained crossed, still observing, always observing the surroundings. Mihik. Second commander. Mihik commented, giving the women a brief smile. You guys are so stiff. The name is Arlong, fourth commander. Then Arlong looked at his partner, who also gave a warm smile. I am Brule, so glad that another woman has joined me and Hancock in this group. She gave Robin a quick hug, to which she returned. These people were so friendly. Rob Lucci, third commander, you already know our new lackeys, Jem, Galdino and Bentham. Lucci pointed at the former Baroque Works agent that they have recruited into their crew. Jem struck a pose along with Bentham, but Galdino was late on the notice and failed to strike a pose along with the other two. I am Brooke, let me ask you, dear, may I see your panty? But an elbow met the head skull of the skeleton man as he fell on the floor. He twitched unnaturally on the ground as if going into shock. Don't mind him, I am Bo Hancock, Queen. She gave Robin a hug as well, it was so warm and welcoming that Robin closed her eyes and enjoyed the embrace of another person. Welcome to our crew. Hancock knew at the moment she saw her. She was going to be a queen of the king. This was what he was speaking about before. And how did she feel about it? She was strong, independent and amazing in every way possible, but he made her feel so many emotions that she would trust his decision and, if need be, share him with others. Thank you, I am glad to be here. Robin replied with a smile. This felt like home more than any place she's ever been before. But she still had to be cautious, as she thought that the Baroque Works were going to be her home for a long time, but he turned out to be a bad guy. She really has a good feeling about this crew, hopefully her feelings are not wrong. At night. At the insistence of King Cobra, the Strawat crew were treated to a feast in honor of their victory and assistance in liberating Alabasta, along with discovering where Rain was being held back. Though the night was enjoyable, Luffy decided that it would be a good time to retreat to his designated sleeping quarters. He needed to create a plan for Dressrosa, there was no way in hell he'll let Doflamingo wreak havoc through that land. As he was leaving, he caught the tail end of a conversation between Lucci and Pell. So you're telling me you'll be able to make me stronger? Pell said in disbelief. After the embarrassing defeat of the Alabasta army to the Strawats, he wanted to be stronger no matter what. Sure I can, but the thing is, things like these don't just happen in a day. So how about I give you the basics and you're on your own from there? Luffy had gone for the night, but the crew was still enjoying the party thrown for them. So who would win in arm wrestling? Instigated Arlong, who was looking between Katakuri and Mihik. Me, of course, it's not even a question. Declared Katakuri. Me. Pronounced Mihik. Silence immediately covered the air as both men said this at the same time. Then laughter escaped Katakuri, to which Mihik joined him. Arlong began to slowly exit the conversation as he steered up some interesting drama between the two powerhouse. He then sat beside Jem, who is his newest crew member. See there? That's how you beat someone who you can't beat yourself. He smiled, happy to create some good-natured rivalry between the first and second commander. I see. Jem took out a notepad with the cover titled How to Be Great Like Arlong. He began to feverishly write in the notebook. Eldino. Let's go, we have to help Pell become a great warrior. Yes, boss. Little by little, the men and their crew were starting to take its own identity. Lucci's crew wore a suite and Galdino looked interesting wearing one. Brook was creating an atmosphere as he played a mellow song for the crowd. It took a moment for the people of Alabasta to get used to seeing a skeleton musician. Though overall the party went great noticeably, Hancock and then Robin disappeared from the party. Some lemon. Leaf smiled at this, with the Alabasta Kingdom under his banner, he needs everyone to get stronger, strong enough to battle with the world powers. As he entered his room, to his pleasant surprise Hancock was already in his bed, waiting for him. About time, I've been waiting for my king. Hancock opened her legs, revealing that underneath her clothes was nothing, she had been naked throughout the whole banquet and she must have been itching for him ever since. TSK, what should I do with a naughty girl like you? Leaf began to crawl up to her area. But Hancock closed her legs, trapping Leaf in between them. Inches from her moist treasure, the scent could make a man go crazy. Not yet my king, I have a question for you. Hancock began, becoming a bit more excited at the look of his hunger. Yes? Leaf asked, ready for whatever it was as he was hungry. So Robin is a young beautiful lady, what is she to us? Hancock began though she knew the answer, just needed him to confirm. Hancock, you will forever be my queen, my first, and my love. Robin is someone precious to me as well, and I also care for her in more ways than one. Leaf knew this was coming, especially since he said that Hancock was going to be one of his queens. I know that's silly. Hancock grabbed Leaf by his cheeks and brought him up to her face, giving him a gentle kiss. I love you with all my heart Leaf, and if I have to share you with others to keep loving you, then I'm okay with it. Thank you Hancock. But just so you know, maybe your other queens won't have enough left after I am done with you. Hancock had a mischievous smile before turning Leaf on his back, she then made her way to between his legs and removed his underwear. Babe, I'm going to rock your world so hard that you'll forget your name by morning time. Is that so? Then her mouth encompassed his member, eagerly swallowing as much as she could. And with a single action, the man who made a mockery of Vice Admiral Borsellino, defeated Sir Crocodile, and stood toe-to-toe with Whitebeard, was in the palm of one bow Hancock. Robin had followed Leaf to his room, wanting to thank him, to express her gratitude, but instead he heard everything that they were doing, and everything that Leaf said about her. But why? He did not even know her. Nevertheless, her heart skipped several beats wanting to know why. Though more pressing was the fact that she had manifested an ear and an eye inside the room, she felt so dirty watching Leaf and Hancock, but she couldn't help what her body was telling her, as she wiggled around as a sensation began to build up from within herself. Her hands began to travel between her legs, then to the most sensitive part of her lips, and she began to rub as she watched them. It was possibly a minute at most until she finally realized what she was doing. In a flurry of panic she immediately cancelled her powers and began to run back to the banquet, her cheeks still the color of rose pink. You know she was watching us, Hancock commented as she continued to make work of his cock. Yeah. And she heard everything you said. She became more eager with each movement of her head, as if begging for his release. Yeah. Want me to invite her to join us? To this Leaf couldn't hold it anymore, as he sprayed her with the sticky white substance which she loved so much. It was all over her and she enjoyed it. The scent, the texture. It was all hers. Maybe another time. She said with a sly smile, satisfied by her conquest. No, come here you. And Leaf pulled her back in, ready to give her more of what she wanted. End of lemon. The very next day, the Strawats finally boarded their ship with Leaf standing next to the mast as his crew looked at him from below. The Alabasta Kingdom has taken Leaf's advice and summoned the Marine, who took the Baroque agents into custody. Then as the Marines left, King Cobra commanded the flag of the Strawats to be brought to the highest point of Alabasta. It would take months to rebuild their palace, but at least they were all alive. Princess Vivi was relayed the message of becoming one of Leaf's wife once she comes of age, and she couldn't be happier. Elle trained with Lucci the basics of becoming stronger throughout the night, and Lucci was paying for the lack of sleep. So now they were aboard their ship, waiting for their captain's command. I have so many things I need done that I can't hardly contain myself. Began Leaf. I want to eventually expand our crew to be big enough to conquer the world, and thus I assigned you all your own division. So my friends, eventually, I will have you all transverse into your own adventures where we all rendezvous in time, but for now I ask you to join me in obtaining another land which we can call ours. While in the process, I want you all to obtain people for your crews as you have began to do so already. So everyone, will you join me in Dressrosa where we will possibly meet our greatest challenge yet? Aye Captain, I am with you. Katakuri was the first to speak, a man who was stuck behind his mother's shadow. A person who was unable to go on his own adventure, free to seek his true purpose in life. That was what he owed Captain Leaf. You have my blade, Captain. Mihawk raised his blade, only one person has drawn with him, and only one has beaten him. Shanks was one person he had drawn, and the captain was the one to beat him. Through the end of time he will be the blade of the king, for this was his purpose. I only want one woman in this world, otherwise I will help you with whatever you need, Captain. Lucci tipped his hat, adjusting it to his comfort. There was truly one woman he needed to kill, and little by little he's learning more and more about her. After what you've done for my people, I'm with you till I die, Captain. Arlong proclaimed, to which Brule gave him a hug. Me too, Captain, I am with you for what you've done for me and my brother. The newest members of the Grand Armada were surprised by the overwhelming loyalty of the crew to their captain. Galdino was brought in for his ability to create wax dummies for training purposes. Bentham forced himself to the crew by challenging Brook at any opportunity. Jem thought it would be fun to learn what he can really do with his devil fruit with the crew. Captain, with what you've done for me, saving me from the loneliness and darkness that was bound to consume me, not to mention Laboon. The whale let out a massive spout at the mention of his name. I'm with you till I become nothing but bones, but I am made of bones, yo-ho-ho-ho. Then it was Hancock who was going to speak up. You are my king and my salvation. I am with you forevermore, through only death will we part. Louis gave her a loving smile. Though he thought everyone was done with their touching speech, there was one more woman who was unaccounted for. I am new to all this, as you all may or may not know. I am known as the Demon of O'Hara. I have a bounty of 80 million on my head as a child. By bringing me along, you have brought great danger to your crew. I can't be here, as my conscience will destroy me if you all die because of me. She began to tear up, finally letting out her emotions. Everyone had been so nice and welcoming to her, especially Hancock and Louis, that it was too good to be true. Robin, don't worry about us. We can handle ourselves. Katakuri began giving Robin a thumbs up. We're actually more worried about putting all of you in danger. Mihik commented. Nobody is dying on my watch. Louis had the most intense and serious look on his face. He gave her a warm smile that only he could pull off. So Robin, the question is really, will you come with us? It took her a moment to compose herself, wiping the tears from her eyes. These people were very strong, but more importantly they were a tight-knit group which she so desperately wanted to be a part of. Yes. She finally replied with a smile, and Hancock and Brule buried her in an embrace. Good, Arlong. Louis commanded as he tossed the eternal log post to his best navigator. Lead the way to Dressrosa. Aye, Captain. Arlong saluted, pulled his woman Brule away from the giant group hug and gave her a kiss before diving into the water and once again riding on the back of Laboon. Let's go. Screamed Arlong as he was floating above water. Whoa-whoa. He yelled when Laboon started to follow his instruction through the direction of his harness. He's so awesome. Brule had hearts forming from her eyes. Whereas Katakuri rolled his eyes and assumed the position of the helmsman for the time being. Alright crew, captain's order, man your stations. Yelled Katakuri. Mihik leaped into the crow's nest. Lucci joined Brook in manning the mast. Jem and Bentham were assigned deck-related choirs, while Galdino was instructed to do the dishes. While the men were being men, Brule, Hancock and Robin were responsible for creating a meal for the crew, and now that they are becoming bigger, an extra hand was a welcomed addition. Onto Dressrosa. Louis commented to himself as he overlooked his crew working at his command. Dressrosa outskirts. My fellow citizen. It still pains me to this day that my dearest Scarlet has passed on exactly 2 years ago. A muscular gladiator headed the gathering. This man was no mere ordinary warrior, no, this man was the beloved king of Dressrosa, King Riku himself. In the audience, 2 people were dressed with an oversized hood. One was a tall muscular man, the other was a beautiful woman holding a precious little girl in her hands. They were amongst the citizens, listening in on the wonderful tribute. Please join me in a moment of silence to our princess, who I am sure is happy where she is. King Riku took a quick look at the headed figure, and a massive smile quickly covered his face. Though he immediately compassed himself to cover the act. Thank you all for coming out once more, and please enjoy our snacks that we have laid out for you good people, and let us celebrate the life of my daughter Princess Elizabeth. King Riku could not contain himself anymore and ran to a private area. It was there that the 2 headed figures finally joined him. My goodness, my precious little thing, you've grown so big. Exclaimed King Riku as the hooded woman gave his little daughter to the king. Father, I'm sorry we could not visit any time sooner, it was just getting dangerous, someone is bound to find out. Oh shush dear, all that matters to me is you are all okay. Isn't that right, Rebecca? Who's a cutie pie? King Riku was tossing little Rebecca in the air, causing the little one to laugh at her grandfather. Plus you have my strongest warrior with you, I wouldn't trust my daughter with any other man, right Kairos? Yes my king. Kairos took a knee in the presence of King Riku, though the king simply laughed at him. None of that, boy. We are family now. Call me Doldo, or better yet, call me father. Yes king, I mean Doldo. Attaboy. So listen, I know you have retired from the life of warfare, but something might be coming to our land. King Riku pulled a card from his back pocket, tossing it to Kairos. The card was blank on one side, but the other was the symbol of the Joker. Some bastard has been intercepting our food supplies, leaving this card in every shipment he manages to interrupt. King Riku then gave his granddaughter a kiss on her forehead before returning her to Kairos, who was too afraid to hold her, so he handed her to Elizabeth instead. Anything you need, come to the palace. Father, I've told you that I don't want you to lose your place. You are doing amazing things for the people. Imagine what others would do with such power. If people were to learn of my marriage with Kairos, unfortunate as it is, you will be forced out of power. Yada yada, I don't care about power, I only care about my family. Anyway, like I said, anything at all you hear. The couple nodded and even little Rebecca copied her parents. Good, until next time. King Riku gave them a smile, not knowing what tomorrow would bring. For little did they know, the invasion had finally begun. Among the people of Dressrosa, the Joker has placed his people in strategic positions to overthrow the kingdom and placed it back in his control. As the coming invasion was coming to fruition, military personnel were disappearing left and right, and nobody seems to remember who they were. But why? Though the world was bigger than just our hero, Monkey D. Leaf. Somewhere in the West Blue. Edward Newgate, also known as Whitebeard, has successfully gathered his entire army. From 1st Division Commander Marco the Phoenix to all the way to allies such as Captain Squard, everyone was there. What they failed to realize was that one person was not with them, one person was biding his time to actually reach the point in which he could obtain his devil fruit. So he had to do something to break up the gathering, to stop the aggression of Whitebeard. My boy, thank you for this. Whitebeard had asked for a drink, and Teach was the first to provide it to him. Whitebeard had not been feeling well lately, ever since the time he left Fishman Island. Of course Pops, call me whenever. Teach immediately went outside, leaving Whitebeard to himself. Marco? Called Whitebeard as he grasped his heart. What's our status? Everyone is here Pops, we're just waiting for your command and we are ready to attack Toto Land. Marco noticed that Whitebeard was not looking well. Pops? Are you okay? Yeah Marco, don't worry about me. Whitebeard attempted to get up but fell on one knee. Damn it. Pops! Exclaimed Marco as he tried to catch his captain. Days passed and Whitebeard's health was increasingly getting worse. Pops, we have to call it off. Marco finally said as his 3 commanders were within the room. Marco, Jozu, and Thatch. No matter what test I perform on you, your ages is the problem. No. We are so close, we have everyone here already. Pops, we've sent them back, we said something came up, they don't know about your condition. Thatch stated worriedly. Whitebeard was going to lash out in anger, but his chest began to feel tight and he fell back on his bed. Maybe it was really his age. Marco and Jozu remained with the captain, but Thatch left the room. Though in the shadow of hallway of the hospital ward of the Moby Dick, a smile formed in the face of the culprit on the sudden weakness of the health of Whitebeard. Teach began to walk away hiding a small black bottle with a red skull on it, laughing to himself as his plan went into play. Not yet, no not quite yet. This was supposed to be Whitebeard's conquest for the One Piece, but one member of his own crew was unknowingly the reason for his sudden decline in health. Teach. Thatch had caught Teach walking outside of the hospital ward. Teach immediately turned around with a smile on his face. You worried too, huh? Well, nothing we can do about it, all we can do is make some magic with our hands. Thatch gave Teach a smile. Yeah. Teach responded and followed Teach to the kitchen of the Moby Dick. Not yet, no not quite yet. Zahahaha. Due to the breakup of the gathering of the Alliance, the Sun Pirates were forced to return to their homeland. Captain Leaf. Come in. To no answer. Jean Bay had been trying to get in contact with Leaf to let him know of the events. Any luck? Fisher Tiger and Aladdin were sitting around Jean Bay, who were both as confused on why the attack had been called off. No Captain. Jean Bay dropped the golden snail and looked around the room. Well, it's alright really, Atlas, now we can help Queen Atoham get more signatures for her dream. Stated Aladdin with a smile on his face. That is true, though Whitebeard is still making me worried. Began Jean Bay, though Fisher Tiger grabbed him by his shoulder as if to ease his worries. That man is going to be fine, he is an emperor, a title only given to 3 people of our time. Aladdin was listening in on Fisher Tiger's speech, but he grabbed the newspaper of the day and began reading it. There's also Big Mom and Kaido, and you don't get that title by being just good. That is true, but Jean Bay was going to say something, though Aladdin let out a loud audible. Captain 4-4. Spit it out, Aladdin, what are you talking about? Fisher Tiger pulled up the paper and read the headline as he let out a shocked expression. Red-haired Shanks has become the 4th emperor. And Mary Geo Ice. I'm glad we've come to an understanding. Red-haired, you know too much, but you do not pose a threat to us. So we'll let you live, but this can change any time. There were 5 powerful figures in that room and it's not just strength. Political prowess, world knowledge, overwhelming influence, this was all of them. Sure. Responded the one and only red-haired. When he said he needed to take care of something important, meeting with the Gorosei was not what anyone would expect. Leave now or we'll really kill you this time. And to that Shanks left the room. As per their agreement he was alone in the land of the enemy and he had a long walk back to his crew. As Shanks left the room the 5 elders immediately addressed the most immediate concern of the group. He is too influential, powerful, we have to declare him a Yonko. This way Newgate, Kaido or Linlin can take care of him. Agreed. Chorused the rest of the group. It took 20 minutes before someone noticed him. A very powerful man, in fact, an admiral recently promoted to his post by the result of the promotion of former Admiral Sengoku. Red-haired. The room suddenly got cold and Shanks stopped in his footsteps. Vice Admiral Kuzan greeted Shanks with the same tone. Admiral Aokiji to you pirate. People in the surveillance room had been watching the entire exchange through some visual den mushy. Though suddenly their feed got interrupted as all they could see was an empty screen. 5 seconds. Kuzan walked beside Shanks and whispered. He's not supposed to be here yet. Take care of it. Okay. Kuzan immediately deactivated his abilities, returning everything to normal. Then as quickly as the feed was gone, it was back on with Shanks and Kuzan walking by each other. Their earlier exchange seemed to be nothing but words. Both men seemed to have come to an understanding, but what about? Aboard the Strawat Grand Armada ship. To traverse the globe from Alabasta to Dressrosa, the crew took a very long time in going through the Grand Line to get to where they needed to go. What should have been a comfortable 2-month journey turned into almost a year, and precious time was used to build some relationship, strength, and crew bonding. As time ticked, Luffy was becoming more and more concerned. Not for himself, but for the kingdom of Dressrosa. Based on his understanding from his timeline, the beginning of this year was when Mingo did the things he did to Dressrosa. But this time there was a difference. This time he wasn't going to just let him take what he wanted. This time he was going to stop Mingo before he took Dressrosa into his control. Not this time, Joker. Mingo knows who he is after breaking down the auction house in Sabati and messing up his slaving business. Otherwise, not a day has gone wasted for the crew though. On the first 2 months of their travel, Robin and Hancock had been gossiping about Luffy as Robin was curious about him. He wasn't forcing anything between them, he just treated her like a person, and that was such a refreshing feeling. Everyone else in the crew treated her with such respect that she couldn't have been happier to be part of this group. So what makes you like him so much? Robin asked as they were helping each other with nail polish. No girl, the question is what is not to like. Hancock stopped painting Robin's nail to give her some information about Luffy. He is gentle but strong, loving but hot-blooded, strong but caring, he is everything you would want in a man, and he gives you the feeling that he will protect you until the day he dies. He has a way of making you feel a certain way. Especially the most amazing experience that words cannot really describe. Oh my, what is it? I don't want to tell you, maybe he'll make you feel it one day. Emphasis on the feel, just the thought of it made her shiver. Just tell me, Hancock. She began to playfully hit her in the arm to get an answer. To which Hancock caught her hand and looked her directly in the eyes, squinting her eyes. Are you sure? She replied, half serious but mostly messing around as well. Yes girl, just tell me. Robin replied with a smile on her face. Hancock looked left, then right, then she slowly approached Robin's ears before revealing the truth, the best part of being with Luffy. He has a massive, though their interaction was interrupted by the arrival of said man. Hey girl, sorry to interrupt. Luffy began with a blush on his face, seeing Hancock and Robin so close made him feel some type of way. But dinner is ready. Sure babe, be there in a few. Announced Hancock, to which Luffy came by to give his lady a hug and a brief but sweet smile to Robin before exiting the room. She then cleared her throat, wanting to know what she would say before getting interrupted. Well, you were saying. Hancock once again lowered her voice and looked at her with a twinkle in her eyes. Oh well, Luffy has a massive dick. Dude acted like a pretentious dickbag. Galdino was sharing a story about his time with Baroque Works and how his path crossed theirs. They were now all in the cafeteria with Hancock and Robin joining last. Bentham and Brooke had been assigned patrol that night as it was 2 people's job during the meal to watch the perimeter. And the group rotated, including the captain. Wow, he really did that, huh? Asked Bruley, who was eating a piece of chicken wing. Arlong grabbed a napkin and wiped some sauce that was on the corner of her mouth. To which she rewarded him with a smile. Yeah, Mr. Zero was the biggest ouch of them all. He thought we were all disposable unless we were strong. I mean, my partner was on her first day on the job when Arlong came in with Laboon and knocked her out. So was Jem's partner. Galdino stated. To which Jem perked up to add some more info to this. I only knew her by her agent name, but Miss Valentine was an idiot, more like someone who knew how to use a gun and had a little bit of aim, probably a Marine dropout, but she was not very bright. Jem scratched his head as he spoke, then Galdino also had a comment about his former partner. My partner was definitely an idiot for freezing up from the whale. I feel like Mr. Zero just looked at people and gave them ranks. I mean I feel like I could beat Mr. Zero. Geldino said confidently. As they were conversing, Luffy suddenly formed a smile in his face, one in which indicated he knew something that no one else knew. Hancock looked at Luffy and held his hands. "What is it, babe?" To her touch, Luffy looked at her and just pointed at the door. "Look over there, he's finally here." She looked at him funny but immediately understood what he meant. For ever since their time in Alabasta and their travel to Dressrosa, a certain stowaway got on board their ship and has been hiding and recuperating. She then smiled but switched her grasp to Robin, who now had a confused look in her face. "What's going on?" Robin asked but immediately dropped her fork, shocked at the man she saw on the doorway. "Shut your mouth, Geldino." A battered but otherwise well-rested former organization leader walked into the dining area of the ship. Everyone immediately became tense, everyone but Luffy, Hancock, Mihik and Katakuri. All four were proficient in observation hockey, coincidence that they were the only one who knew? I think not. Mr. Zero, what the hell are you doing here? You were on your way to impel down." Geldino trembled as he was talking so much crap when he didn't know the man was here. "Hey Mihik, do something, that crocodile guy is here." Arlong whispered to his friend who sat on his left. "Nah," was all he responded before continuing on eating his food. Then Arlong leaned forward to Katakuri and made the same request. "Hey Katakuri, do something, sand guy is here." He tried to keep his voice as low as possible, but Crocodile looked directly at him. "Listen here, sword nose, all you assholes would have been dead if it wasn't for these four." Crocodile pointed at Luffy who was happily eating his food. Hancock, who was also eating. Mihik who sat beside Arlong, and Katakuri who sat in front of him. "Wait, you guys knew?" Jem explained, joining Geldino in an embrace as they both trembled in fear of their former employer. "Yeah, no big deal, it's just Croco." Luffy shrugged it off, but to others, it was a big deal. "Nothing to worry about, Robin, he won't do anything to you, not on my watch." "What about us?" Geldino and Jem said at the same time as tears began to comically well up from their eyes like a fountain. "I have your back." Lucci commented, though a bit disappointed in himself for not being able to mark out that Croco fucking dial was on board. "I made a deal with your captain." Crocodile began as he made his way to a bench, plopping down as it took a lot out of him to get up to the dining area. He was definitely not 100% recovered from his beatdown from Leaf. "As much as I hated Mugiwara, I hate that smug former celestial bastard even more." After Luffy found him on that first day, Luffy provided him with some items to help him heal sooner. Mugiwara didn't say anything, just continued to come back and give him some food, water, blankets, even clean clothes. This went on for months until finally, Luffy wasn't able to find him, then he knew that it was a matter of time before he popped up. Katakuri and Mihik sensed him on board, but knew well enough to not bother him if the captain already knew he was there. Hancock was going to protest, but she thought about it and she knew Luffy wouldn't put them in danger. He then revealed his golden hook which caused Geldino and Jem to pass out. "What?" He stabbed an apple with his hook and began eating it. The rest of the meal returned back to normal with laughter and jokes. Eventually Jem and Geldino got up, embarrassed from passing out. "Alright guys, I'll be catching some air." Luffy gave Hancock a kiss before exiting the dining room. It was outside where a certain sand user followed him. He still had a suspicious look in his face, despite helping him basically get better. "Croco, what's up?" Luffy looked at the distance, enjoying the moonlight and the gentle breeze of the sea. "Would you do it? Would you help me? Why didn't you kill me when you had the chance?" "Oh, so many questions." "Well, first of all, I helped you because you were injured. What more reason do I need? I didn't kill you because I feel as if you can be redeemed. Was I right, Croco? TSK, the things that I have done to become king of Alabasta. That's not redeemable, Mugiwara." Crocodile took a seat at a barrel while Luffy leaned against the railing of the ship. "What did you do exactly? In this timeline, there's no way he could have done the things he did when he was 10 years in on the operation." "Well, I did everything that Cobra said, just that I had the goal to eventually overthrow his kingdom and take over. Eventually get my hands on Pluton with the help of Robin, possibly aim to destroy the Holy Kingdom and say good riddance to those celestial dragon bastards." "So what? Big whoop, you wanted to be king. If I didn't come along I would have found a way to stop you eventually, just how the universe works." Luffy was confident in this. He defeated Crocodile, the Sand Loja Warlong Extraordinaire, when he was 17 years old back in his timeline, without hockey. Beat that. "So what then after Dressrosa?" Crocodile asked as he picked his teeth with his hook. "Join my armada, become one of my commanders." There was a pause as wind passed through the duo. The offer was definitely calculated. From the time they met to the time he stowed away, Luffy already had a plan for this and Crocodile fell into his hands. And so he laughed, grasping his forehead. Sure, but the first chance you drop your guard, I'll kill you and I ain't calling you captain. You just did. Fuck. Ain't happening again. Meanwhile Bentham and Brooke looked at each other as the whole interaction between Leaf and Crocodile took place, confused on what to do. As soon as they both came into agreement and retreated to their sleeping quarters, the two people on patrol shrugged their shoulders and returned to their assignment, still unsure what the hell Crocodile was doing on board. They will know later, that's for sure. After their conversation, Leaf made his way to his sleeping quarter. It was there where he found Robin leaning against his bedroom door. Hi Robin. Damn, she was pretty, now, then, forever. Robin looked amazing. Hey Captain, I just want to let you know that I trust you, with the whole Crocodile situation. Of course she had been listening, he should have expected that, her ability was really something else. I wouldn't make any decision that put our crew in jeopardy. Well, I mean, we're going to Dressrosa, but that's out of necessity. Of course Captain, well, have a good night. He felt like she wanted something else. Like she was waiting for him to do something. He ignored the thought and let Robin pass as he prepared to enter his room. Though he felt soft hands grab hold of the back of his arms. He slowly turned and found himself encompassed in a gentle yet sweet kiss with Nico Robin. It lasted for a few moments and both people cherished each and every second of it. But alas, the kiss broke, to which Robin was blushing heavily. She never did that before and it felt so right doing it with Leaf. As they parted their lips, they looked into each other's eyes. Leaf had a confused yet gleeful look on his face. Robin with an excited, yearning look about her. They were silent for some time, just looking at one another, not one saying something in anticipation of the other. But Robin, oh, she was good. Well, good night Captain. She said in the cutest, most sensual way possible after stealing another quick peck on the lips of Leaf. And he froze in his spot, his heart fluttering at the exchange. He then entered the room to reveal Hancock, who was reading a book in their bed. Hey babe. Hey, so Robin just kissed me. Hancock jumped up at this revelation and kissed him as well. She genuinely looked happy. Yes. Now when can we have her join us? Leaf liked the enthusiasm, but she has become hungry and he was ready to feed her in every way she wanted it. When time together aboard their ship turned into months, then a year, they had to stop constantly on what port they could find and buy as much supplies as they could. And Iz was back to traveling once more. Lucci in particular was picking everyone's brains, being the youngest commander so far, he was really serious in obtaining as much as he could with his crew members. Lucci and Katakuri had been having a friendly spar, where Lucci would lose every single time, then he would move on to spar with Bentham, who was an expert in hand-to-hand combat. Brooke had been practicing with Mihik, as they were both proficient with their blades. Hancock had been teaching Robin some of her kicking technique, in case she would need to engage in close combat. But her ability is particularly useful in espionage and eliminating multiple targets. Everyone else was training, sleeping, and work. The two ladies have been spending some time together as noticed by Leaf. In fact, he was starting to feel a little left out as the two would often go on their own mini trip together and would just talk about random things. Oh well, he was glad they were getting along well. While they were busy bonding, Leaf had been giving his men little advice here and there to improve themselves. On one of their traveling days, the captain and his first commander were having a friendly spar. Katakuri has already reached the highest point of his Machi ability. In fact, he was so close he can certainly you should awaken your ability. Stated Leaf as he stretched after a good sparring match with Katakuri. What is this awakening you speak of, Captain? Katakuri was so close to it and yet he didn't know it yet. Oh well, he was 10 years younger than where he was before. It is where you influence your environment with your devil fruit ability. Like so suddenly, everyone who was doing something stopped. Mihawk looked down from his crow's nest in order to see what this awakening was. Arlong jumped out of the back of Laboon and landed on the deck, also curious at what awakening was. The rest of the crew followed suit and Leaf was glad to show them what his awakening was. Robin took notice of her new best friend, Hancock, who took a grip of her hand. She was so invested in him that Robin couldn't help but emulate her, especially after that kiss with him. Here it comes. Commented Bruley as she joined the other ladies. Leaf began to steam from his body, his skin turning into a pink color. He then placed his hands on the deck of the ship, seemingly cutting the air with his focus. Jem tensed up as he stood beside Brooke watching every movement of the future king. Bentham and Lucci had been sparring but held off on it in order to watch. Crocodile stopped breeding to look over on what Leaf was doing, now awakening. Huh? The deck of the ship was bigger than anyone needed, so there were plenty of quadrants to train and do whatever the hell they needed. So there he was, now placing his fist on the deck of the ship. And if you asked anyone present, for a split second, just a moment, everyone felt like they were going to bounce off the floor and into the air. But then it was back to normal again. Sorry, that's all I got. Leaf had the most serious look in his face as he looked at his crew members. They all deadpanned into the ground. What the heck? Captain got our hopes up and everything. exclaimed Arlong, although he meant it as a good-natured rib. Mihik smiled to himself and returned to overlooking the area through the crow's nest. This has been his primary post as he enjoyed the open air and time away from everyone else. He was a lone soul after all, but though he would not admit it, enjoyed everyone's company. Everyone had a good laugh about it, especially Luffy, who was glad to make his crew laugh at his shenanigans. It was just a matter of time before they would reach Dressrosa, and a matter of time before they put an end to Joker. Time has flown by since Luffy arrived in place of his younger self. In this time, Luffy was able to create a powerful crew, consisted of Dogtooth Katakuri, the second eldest of the crew at the age of 38, who dropped his last name in spite of his mother. Dracula Hawkeye Mihawk, the third eldest at the age of 33. The Rook, the skeleton man at the solid age of 80. Arlong, the SAW 31 years of age, former human hater now lover. The Rule 33 years of age, who also dropped her last name in spite of her mother and also dating a certain fishman. Bra Blue Chee, the youngster who is 20 years old, hungry to learn from the veterans of the crew, but more importantly revenge. Daldino 25 years of age, who was used to spawn training dummies for the crew to train, and he was happy to comply as long as it wasn't him getting beaten up. The Entham at age 22, who has yet to defeat Broken Battle, so therefore is staying with the crew till then. Dem, the baby of the group, no wonder he flicks his boogers with his ability at the age of 16. Their massive beast of a whale named Laboon, age 43. Their newest recruit, Crocodile, 30 years of age, possibly gunning for Lee's head. Though more importantly his queen's Hancock and Robin, both of which are 20 years of age. The crew now had a solid year of bonding. And they were stronger than when they first got together. Dressrosa. Viola, please finish your vegetables. King Riku had been eating his food, after all a healthy meal makes a strong king. Father, I am 19 years old and I can eat what I want. Protested the princess, to which Monet, the servant, interjected. Isn't that right, Monet? The one who was serving them food was a green-haired beauty, wearing a black dress in order to look professional in her job. Why, of course, my princess. She then gave Viola a wink as she removed the vegetables from her plate when King Riku wasn't looking. Fine, I ate it, you happy father. Viola exclaimed, to which King Riku gave her an approving thumbs up. Good, may I be excused? To which he father nodded and Princess Viola left the dining hall and marched to her room. My king, may I be excused? Monet asked, taking a knee in front of the king. Of course, Monet, please snap her to her senses. I don't know anything about teenagers these days and I'm glad you've joined my staff. I am just glad you helped me get off the streets, my king. Be on your way then. King Riku dismissed her and she made her way to comfort Viola. Monet took a courteous bow, but as soon as she left the room and nobody was watching, her entire mannerism took a whole new form. It was as if a new person took over her body and she became more confident in herself. She then took a detour to one of the empty rooms and pulled out a den mushi, one of which had the face of Joker. Joker? Monet, how are things in the castle? It's alright, when will it begin? If, what would you say if I said now? Good. To this Monet formed a smile, though she felt someone had been watching her and she heard noises from outside the room. Monet opened the door and revealed Princess Viola, who had been listening in on her entire conversation. Ah, hi Monet, I was just looking for you, I didn't know you were in there. Is that right, princess? Monet grabbed her own green hair and tied it into a bun. Suddenly the entire room became colder as powder snow began to blow out of Monet's body and into the room. Help. She had one good scream in before Monet bounded her. No, my sweet, I need you to watch everything. Monet brought Viola into the front of the gate. Not a single guard was able to stop her, for not a single one of them knew she was a Loja. Please reconsider this mutiny. Viola begged, but to no avail. Monet simply smiled at the princess and opened the door to the palace. It was bright and blinding, but Viola was finally able to make out the people standing outside the castle. Have at it, boys. Claimed Monet as Doflamingo went to embrace her. Viola thought this was her opportunity as she began running. Though she hit a person in her attempt to escape. He wore dark shades and a well-trimmed goatee. Not today, princess. Commented Doflamingo as he put his arms around Monet before starting his invasion of the kingdom of Dressrosa. King Riku and his royal guards were ready for war. They all had their weapon drawn when the intruders entered the throne room. Though before any of his men could move, they were all suddenly killing each other as if they were being controlled by something or someone. What the hell is the meaning of this? King Riku was able to see thread-like substance controlling his men, so in one swipe, he cut the strings that were attached to them. Dangerous, to be able to see my strings. Doflamingo tilted his head to the fighting king, he respected the tenacity, and he was a respectable warrior. Though the king was massively outnumbered as Doflamingo had his entire family there with him. Treble, Diamante, Pika, Virgo, Jola, Lao Ji, Senor Pink, Matchvise, Gladius, Buffalo, Sugar and Monet. The main powerhouses of his family. The king was by himself with his men defeated, but he was going out with a fight. King. Doflamingo wagged his finger and Monet brought Viola forward. If you resist she dies. The king immediately dropped his sword. Not my daughter, take me Don Quixote. Yes, now we're coming to an understanding. Listen here Riku, these lands belong to my family. The Don Quixote family have owned these lands since the beginning of time so I want it back. Fine, take it, just don't get my daughter involved. TSK Riku, that's too easy. I don't want the land, I want money. Let's say we're even at 10 billion biri. Is this some kind of game Don Quixote? Just then, Doflamingo decided to plop himself down on the throne. Go on then, I'll be off your back as soon as you give me my 10 billion biri. Damn you Doflamingo, it was to this that King Riku embraced his daughter before going out to his people, begging them for as much as they could spare. Any chance we'll really leave if he somehow comes up with 10 billion biri? Asked Pika in his unusually high-pitched voice. No. And to this the room laughed and Viola could only cry in silence, here surrounded by her enemies. A day passed and King Riku was able to return with the money that Doflamingo asked for. He looked tired from going around all day, but Doflamingo did not care one bit. For your reward Riku, I will have you make a fool of yourself. In fact you can go now. Doflamingo flicked his finger and King Riku suddenly lost control of himself. Get away from me please. He began to swing his sword randomly, nearly killing his own daughter with a swing of his sword. The action, even if it wasn't his own, made him tear up as he really wasn't in control of himself any longer. Though as all hope seemed to be lost, his most precious son-in-law arrived into the scene, anger flaring from his eyes. Kairos thanked the gods. But even his arrival was null, as Doflamingo was able to subdue Kairos and chain him against the wall, with no option of escape. No matter how hard he tried he pulled, he could not break the chains. King Riku now went on a rampage, with the control of Doflamingo. Dressrosa outskirt. I think it's time to become heroes boys. Doflamingo proclaimed as he stood on the outskirts of the city of Dressrosa. It was him, Diamante, Treble, and Pika. Finally! Exclaimed Pika in his unusually high-pitched voice. Luffy, this is what we worked for so long. Treble was bouncing on his snot as he slid along with the group. You Treble, you're getting your snot on me. Diamante was trying to toss the snot away from him. Though something unexpected happened. From out of nowhere, King Riku stopped his controlled terror. He fell on both knees and cried his eyes out. Doflamingo had a confused look on his face. Especially now that there was someone standing in his path. One lone man who had a smirk across his face. As the dust cleared Doflamingo was finally able to recognize him. A man wearing a straw hat. And with as much disdain in his voice as he could possibly muster, Doflamingo said. Mugiwara. Mingo, I can't let you get through. Luffy stood before the 4 members of the Don Quixote family. Take care of it. Doflamingo said to his men as Treble launched himself forward, molting his body into snot, though Luffy simply clapped his hands together to blow the excess snot away from Treble's real body. He was now a skinny man with a giant head. And Luffy sent him far behind from where Doflamingo stood. Ah! Screamed Treble as he immediately retracted his slim to protect himself. Though he didn't feel right, he felt a bit like something mixed in with his snot. What is this? Hello gross snot monster, the name is Crocodile, and I'm gonna kill you. Crocodile, the newest addition to the Straw Hat Grand Armada, took on his first major opponent assignment. Meanwhile Pika attempted to follow Treble by jumping up with his massive sword and attempting to cut down the Straw Hat captain. Though Luffy deflected the strike with his arm, caught Pika by his face and tossed him to his right. Mind you Luffy has yet to move a step. Pika finally stopped flying, slowing getting up. He found that Mugiwara has thrown him really far. Move and I'll cut you to pieces. Mihawk was the one to be assigned to deal with the stone bastard. And last to attempt to attack Luffy was Diamante, and Luffy hated this man, particularly as much as he hated Doflamingo. He attempted to turn himself into a flag, but Luffy caught him mid-transformation with a kick in the guts, before grabbing him by the collar of his shirt and tossing him far. Really far. Diamante softened his landing by turning himself into a flag, though the floor suddenly became raised and he smacked against a hard candy-like substance, mochi. Captain particularly wanted you to suffer. I can't disappoint him. The one to deal with Diamante was Katakuri. Sure you will Dogtooth. Diamante whipped out his blade from his pocket. Then it was back to Luffy and Doflamingo. You can't beat me Mugiwara. I've heard it before. I have a fucking army. Where Mingo? Luffy mocked him by placing his hands over his eyes and looked around. That's what I thought. Your whole operation has failed today actually, my bad for being late because it should have ended much sooner. What do you mean you should have gotten here sooner? You got 'em all on me? I got people everywhere. Not anymore. The fuck does that mean? Call them Mingo. Luffy took a seat on the stone floor, waiting for Doflamingo to make the call. Which he did, and after the call, he was angry. What they say, Mingo? Komi and Mingo. Luffy was playing with him now, for his armada has spread out their forces. Brook has intercepted Lao Ji. Hancock is in a face-to-face standoff with Monet. Burlee was assigned to keeping sugar in her mirror world, Eliminator as a factor in this war. Lucci stopped Virgo from getting on his ship to return to his undercover work with the Marines. Dem faced against Gladius, may the better explosion win. Robin has stopped Jola from getting into her position. Arlong has met a powerful but respectable new adversary, Senor Pink. Bentham decided to beat the most disgusting looking one, but he was strong, Buffalo was strong, he could tell. This left Geldino against Matchvise, which he was scared shitless since this was his first ever New World opponent. Laboon was assigned with destroying any Don Quixote ships from leaving the port. Mingo, what's wrong, cat got your tongue. He jumped up in the air and held his hands forward. Ice wall. He began to emit cold air from his palm, and suddenly, a massive wall emerged. It took the Admiral some time to manifest the wall, and yet that would not be enough to contain the Yonko. Slow her down, maybe, but just for a second. She's by herself. Vice Admiral Momoga was looking in a binocular to follow the Emperor as she approached. Men. Fire all you got if a breach occurs in the wall. It's not gonna hold, but I can help slow her down. Commodore Kizaru disintegrated and shot himself in the sky. Suddenly the flash of light switched directions and came crashing down, aimed towards the Emperor. Light shower. Vice Admiral Momoga continued to view Big Mom through the lens, but found that she had disappeared. Then a loud crash through the ice wall. Giant chunks of the ice wall came crashing down on their men, so Admiral Aokiji caused his ice to melt into water once more. The officers who feared for their life suddenly found themselves drenched in water. Their guns would not fire due to fear of Big Mom and circumstances of getting their gunpowder drenched. Marines, get out of my way. My quarrel is not with you today. Her voice was low and threatening. She stopped mid-rampage, which meant she cared about someone's opinion. She was ablazed as she had a frantic look about her. Big Mom, if you oppose us today, then you will be entering Kaido's territory. I suggest you reconsider. Admiral Aokiji spoke you pup. Meanwhile the thousands of Marine officers trembled at the sight of the Emperor. Her mere presence made them weak, almost at the point of collapse. Is that so? But Big Mom was not changing her mind. Fuck Kaido, let him come. But my anger is with Mugiwara. Then you'll also have to deal with us on top. Then Admiral Aokiji brought out a massive plate. It was covered with a lid that hid its content. If I can't convince you through regular means. How about some top quality cuisine? I do like food. Big Mom removed the lid and crushed it in her hands. The content was a massive flan, made from the finest West Blue brown sugar and the best milk from the cows of the North Blue. She took a bit out of the flan and then another and another. Until finally she ate the whole thing. Her frown was replaced by a satisfied smile. This changes nothing, Marines. Big Mom re-dyed her blade as her homies collectively laughed joyously at the massacre that would occur that day. So be it. The Marines were absolute justice and they would not let a pirate push them around. Admiral Aokiji drew his ice blade, so did Vice Admiral Momoga with his regular steel blade. Commodore Kizaru also drew a light blade and the thousands of Marine officers aimed with their guns, finally able to reload with some dry gunpowder. If it's a war you want, then it's a war you get. Then Marines, stop me if you can. Baltigo. Dodge this you little shit. Hack had been polishing the skills of your Sabo. It had been a year since he was rescued from the open sea, nearly dying from the explosion caused by a world noble. Haha. That ain't nothing to me, Hack. Sabo ducked swiftly and grabbed Hack's legs before throwing him overhead and slamming him on the ground. Damn brat, you got me again. Hack got up slowly, caring for the bump on his head. It had only been a year, yet Sabo was quickly learning their unique styles. He was good, really good. Alright, who's next? Sabo looked around to find a tall man step forward. He had a Bible on his hands and a calm look about him. Kuma-san. I'm honored. Sabo got into formation, covered his hands in hockey as this fight was more serious than any of his previous sparring matches, and launched himself forward. Though Bartholomew Kuma was no pushover, swiping his paw at just the right time to teleport Sabo into the sky above him. Sabo blinked several times before falling straight down. The fit of laughter filled the remote island as the other recruits laughed at Sabo's expense. He fell flat on his face, though he immediately got up to thank Kuma in showing him something what he was lacking. Despite the brief encounter, Sabo learned so much from the ever-silent warlord. Sabo looked up in the sky for a moment, flashes of his past life hunted him, but nothing seems to unlock his mind. Who was he before? Sabo. Let's continue. Hack announced as he once again took his stance. "Aye, sir." Sabo responded with a confident smile. One day he'll learn who he was, one day. Fishman Island. Good luck, mother. Prince Fukabashi was in charge of security for his mother. He prepared his mother for the biggest speech of her campaign. "Thank you, my son, don't overwork yourself." She caressed the cheek of her son and smiled at him. He had grown to be such a fine young man, taking after his father. "Well, here I go." "You got this, mother. I'll be here after your speech." She responded with a smile towards him before commencing with her speech. "This marks a new day for all fishmen and merfolks alike. I have obtained the majority signature of the citizens of Fishman Island to finally join the humans in the surface world. Please, if you have any questions, come forward." Queen Atohem has been busy gathering signatures ever since Monkey D. Lee set foot in her land. And with the help of her family, she was able to obtain almost all the citizens of her kingdom. Those who opposed signing the document were similar to Fisher Tiger in holding on to deep-rooted hatred towards the surface world. An elderly fishman stepped forward, trembling at each step that he took. "My queen, I have been a citizen of this land for hundreds of years, and I am nearing my time. We elderly folks are not ready for a change, so in the event that this goes through, will we be forced to relocate?" One of Queen Atohem's boys, Prince Manbashi, immediately brought the elderly fishman a chair to sit on. The elderly gentleman gave the prince an approving smile before awaiting the queen's response. "I thank you for your questions, kind sir, and to answer your question, we are not forcing anyone to relocate, everyone has the freedom of choice, and Fishman Island is still our home, so we will only bring those who wish to join us in our move to the surface. But keep in mind that I still need to bring our request to the Holy Land, and it still needs to be approved by the world government. Though with everyone's overwhelming support, this move will pass. Thank you for your question, kind sir." The elderly gentleman was satisfied with his question and allowed another person to ask a question. A younger, beautiful mermaid approached the podium to ask her question. "Queen Atohem, what if we go to the surface and we are mocked and ridiculed for our appearance for being ourselves?" Tears began to well up on the young mermaid's face, and another one of her sons, Prince Ryabashi, provided the young mermaid with a cloth for her tears. "I understand your concerns and this has been considered." She paused for a moment and looked over the crowd, then to her husband who gave her an approving nod. King Neptune has been so supportive throughout all of this that she couldn't help but let the confidence fill her soul. "I will be honest with you, it will be hard at first, these worldviews cannot be erased overnight. Hate is something that is filtered out throughout time. If they remain the aggressor and we remain firm in being non-violent, it is only then that the humans will eventually learn to back down, they will eventually realize their mistake in mistreating us, and if not for us, for our children, for our children's children, and for the future. A world where humans and fish folks can cooperate is our ultimate goal. It might not be instant, but we have to start somewhere, we have to start now." After a moment of pure silence, people began to process what she said, and a round of applause erupted. The Queen Atohem was truly happy at the support, and this showed the pinnacle of her popularity and overwhelming personality. She smiled and waved into the crowd, though something in particular was not like the other. Multiple emotions were visible in the crowd, except for one particular expression. A gray-skinned great white shark fishman had a serious look about him, seemingly troubled and determined to do something regrettable. Her smile disappeared for a moment as she looked into his eyes, trying to understand him. What did he want? What did he want to do? Then a glimmer of something shiny emerged from his hands. She looked at it in confusion. It was shiny, metallic and hollow. "Mother!" exclaimed someone. Who was it? Then a loud sound emitted from the hollow chamber, and it quickly made its way to her. She fell flat on her back as blue blood began to flow. "Oh my god!" exclaimed Prince Ryabashi as the young mermaid who spoke earlier clinged onto him. "Nuo!" exclaimed Prince Manbashi as he fell on both knees. Queen Atohem felt her abdomen where the blue blood continued to flow. Instead of feeling an open wound, she found that somebody's hair laid over her, as the blood did not belong to her, it belonged to her son. It was a human. "I saw it with my own eyes," exclaimed the man who released the bullet from the gun. He thought he got her clean, and yet, she was alive. Queen Atohem slowly stood up, gently placing her fallen son on the ground. It was the human. His voice trailed at the sight of the queen on her feet. Her son had reacted quickly enough to take her place on the path of the bullet. "Prince Fukabashi is dead due to your hatred." She slowly made her way to him, swimming past a crowd of people. She maintained her resolve as the assailant held out the gun in front of him. "It should have been me, so shoot me. Your theatrics will not work any longer. Everyone is now aware of your lies." She continued to come closer, and the fishman had that look in his eyes again. He was going to shoot again. The fishman lifted his gun, aimed it at the queen, but he would not have a chance to shoot, as his hands, which once wielded the pistol, were chopped clean off. It wasn't any of the princes. One is dead, another occupied, while the last had collapsed on the ground in grief. No, it was the father of the fallen prince, King Neptune, whose speed and agility was still prime. He quickly reacted to the event and dashed towards the assailant, using his trident to cut the hands off of the assailant. He then twisted around and used his fin to flick the assailant backwards, only to catch him by the neck and slam him on the ground. His grip was tight and he wanted to kill him so badly. Just a squeeze and his life would be over. But not that day, King Neptune would not take a life in spite of the death of his son. Queen Atohem had gotten to his side at just the right time to place a comforting hand over his shoulder, as if to tell the king not today. My eldest has died because of you. King Neptune let go of his neck, finally letting him take a breath. Banish, you are forever banished in our lands. Suddenly the shooter was surrounded by the members of the Sun Pirates, led by none other than Fisher Tiger himself. He had his arms crossed firmly, behind him stood Jinbei and Aladdin. Odie, you fucked up for the last time. Fisher Tiger brought Hody Jones to his feet, tossing him toward Jinbei and Aladdin. Take care of him. But boss, you hated humans. I was doing what you would do. That's the thing, Hody, I hated humans, not anymore. To this Aladdin and Jinbei took Hody away, as per King Neptune's orders, banished from Fishman Island. At night, the family mourned the loss of Prince Fukabashi, the family's eldest boy. Not only the family but the entire nation mourned the death of their prince, though more reason to push through with coming into the surface. He would want that. Outside of Fishman Island, where the border of their kingdom resides, the only thing that separates Hody from the open sea were Jinbei and Aladdin. Come on guys, let's strike a deal, hide me out until I can get on my feet. Fuck you Hody, Prince Fukabashi was my friend. Tears streamed from the eyes of Aladdin. Go on Hody, if you don't leave, we'll kill you ourselves. Jinbei threatened, to which Hody immediately swam away from them, using his strength to create some distance. He stopped just several yards from them, where he was confident he would outswim them if they decided to follow him. I'll be back, you assholes. I'll kill all of you human-loving pieces of shit. I swear it. He raised his stump, which had been cut off by King Neptune. I swear. Then several hundred sea kings turned their attention to Hody. They all looked angry, as in their collective mind, Poseidon has spoken and they will follow her orders. Ahhhhh. Hody swam away as fast as he could, disappearing in the distance. Jinbei patted Aladdin in the back, helping him through this trying times as they made their slow return back to the kingdom. Poseidon was someone in the royal family whose emotions are in certain turmoil at the death of someone dear to her. She wanted justice for her loss and unconsciously sent out an order for the death of Hody Jones. For Poseidon was the youngest of the royal family. Poseidon was Princess Shirahashi. Dressrosa Palace. Everyone was gone. Kairos was left on his own as he tried to break the sea stone cuffs that bound him. No luck. But hope filled him once more as he found a sword close. He just had to reach for it with all his strength. He reached for the sword. In his mind he would cut his own leg off and go after Doflamingo on his own, but his plans would not be able to come to fruition. Kairos, don't. King Riku had returned to the palace. Shut up Doflamingo. Your trickery will not work any longer. No tricks Kairos, my boy, I am your father-in-law. He began to frantically look for the keys to release the gladiator. Though he was still not trusting. Father. Princess Viola had gotten away from Monet thanks to the arrival of a certain Strawhat queen. Viola. Thank the gods. How are you here? He stopped for a moment to embrace his daughter, though he implored her to look for the keys as well. The woman arrived with Mujiwara and she freed me from Monet. She said to return to the palace. Oh, I am here. What happened, father? Viola stopped as she saw that King Riku was covered in blood. Doflamingo did something to me where I assaulted my own people with my blade. I finally stopped mid-swing from cutting a child. Tears began to well up from the king as he also stopped looking for the key. Still no luck. You are King Riku truly? And Princess Viola? Kairos was still skeptical. This could be a trap. To which Viola nodded. Wait. I have an ability. Viola held her fingers on her eyes to form goggles. There she looked around the room for the keys, though no luck. It is not here, father. Is this what you are looking for? From seemingly out of nowhere, a tiny little man approached them. He held a key over his head and handed it to King Riku. Yes, it is. King Riku took the keys, at first mesmerized by the little man. Who are you, kind sir? King Riku, your family has always been good to us, and yet time has forced us to become nothing but a fairy tale. But alas, time has called for us to resurface once more. I am Chief Gancho here to aid you. The evil man that is Doflamingo should not be allowed a chance for victory. You have many injuries due to his puppetry of you. We can help. Please. Do not worry, King, my tribe is going around Dressrosa assisting with the injured as we speak. Thank you, Chief Gancho. Just like the chief claimed, his people were going around helping the injured, though all of them were also made aware that Doflamingo manipulated the king into going berserk. The Tontada tribe members were told to spread the word that King Riku was innocent and Doflamingo was the enemy. Viola was given the key to the shackles and finally freed Kairos from his bindings. Scarlet. she said, to which Kairos immediately nodded and dashed towards his wife and child. Rinriku sat down on the ground, finally able to breathe. Mugiwara is out there, father, I saw him with my eyes. He is a good man. Viola sat beside her father and hugged him. King Riku then looked through the window of his palace, seeing destruction and battles occurring all throughout his land. I will have to entrust the fate of my country to this Mugiwara and his group of pirates. Unquixote Pirates Gladius vs Straw Hat Grand Armada 4th Division Gem. Gladius is my name. What is yours, fellow explosive man? Gladius remained unfazed, as his opponent was a mere rookie, weak, someone with no experience in the new world. The power difference was too immense that words can't truly express the difference. Gem was on all four, coughing up blood as he could not get an ounce of offense. Captain was right, these people were strong. But what the hell, he was exploding, and his body was exploding, but he was losing to a guy who can make items explode at contact. It seems that he was just put in a match which he could not win. The explosion was not the problem, it was the physical attacks that come with his explosiveness. Though his opponent does not know that, this could be his advantage. Gem, my name is Gem of the Straw Hat Grand Armada 4th Division. Nice to meet you, I'll make sure to plaster your blood across your gravestone. Gladius took hold of a boulder which had broken off of a wall in their explosion exchange. He then began to charge it with his abilities, making it a bomb projectile. Die. Gem of the Straw Hats. Eat shit. Gem used the most devastating move in his entire arsenal, and boy, it was a big one. As the rock projectile made its way towards him, Gem put his hands inside his nose, twisting and turning, digging deep for his nuclear weapon. Flashes of his training with Boss Arlong, with the other members of the Grand Armada, and Captain Leaf's guidance went through his mind. If ever you are in doubt, blow shit up. Such wise words from the Grand Armada King, he could never forget this advice, as all he could really do was blow shit up. As soon as he was able to get a decent-sized projectile from his nasal factory, he pulled it out and rolled it, then he proceeded to aim at the other massive projectile heading his way. He then threw his own projectile, his ultimate back pocket trick, his last resort, and it collided with a rock which caused a massive explosion that blew Gladius backwards. What the hell was that? Gladius covered his face after the shock of the explosion. He then removed his goggles, only to find Gem had covered the distance between them. How? Months of physical training from hell did pay off after all. Boss Arlong would kill me if I lose today, then he would revive me only to kill me again. Gem had a new wind in his body, it was as if he was renewed. It had been months since he built up his reserve, and now that he released the massive bomb from his nasal passages, he felt like a new man. It was his forbidden technique, his hidden gold, his booger bomb. So you got close to me, what now then, Gem? Gladius mocked as Gem did not have any weapons, no knife or sword, just himself. I am the weapon, bitch. Gem wrapped his arms and legs around Gladius's body. He held him tight, ready to perform the ultimate technique. Though Gladius thought that he would supercharge his clothes and meet the explosion with more explosion. Ultimate self-explosion. Gem released his ability throughout his whole body. Clothes explosion. Gladius charged his own clothes and matched Gem's exploding ability. Then a massive eruption occurred and then silence. Gem laid flat on his back along with Gladius, both men were unable to move. Or so it seems. Hey. Gladius spoke as best as he could, although he could charge objects into exploding, he could only take so much impact before his body would fall apart on its own. Yeah? After taking a heavy breath, Gem jumped to his feet and stretched his body, twisting and turning to get deep into his muscle aches. Once the physical damages were taken out of the equation and the battle became about explosion, he was good with that. Nothing. Gladius then nearly passed out after the embarrassing loss to a green rookie from fucking paradise. How embarrassing. Gem kicked Gladius a couple times just to make sure he was down. With no response from his exploding opponent, Gem raised both hands in the air. Yahoo! Proclaiming his victory. Gem had defeated a member of the Donquixote family. Though he took a beating, and despite all of his training, his body still needed to get used to close combat battles. As soon as he exclaimed in glee, he fell flat on his face, falling asleep in the middle of the battle. Exhaustion finally kicked in as he had been fighting for some time. The wind suddenly picked up as two new figures arrived at the scene. A taller man and a boy with thick eye bags approached the sleeping body of Gem. Neither man uttered a word, but the taller man picked up Gem like a sack of potato and threw him over his shoulder. They then left the area, leaving Gladius for whoever would collect him later, moving on to wherever they were going. Unquixote Pirate Buffalo vs Straw Hat Grand Armada 5th Division Bentham. Head kick. Then a head kick followed, though Buffalo was quick on the response. Elbow drop. Still no connection. Consecutive jabs, still nothing. Bentham had been using his Akama Kempo to fight Buffalo, the rotating member of the Donquixote Pirates. His smile was annoying as he had tattooed. Though he was massive in stature, he uses his fruit ability well and is able to dodge Bentham's strikes with ease. Weak, weak, claimed Buffalo as he was flying in the air. He used his devil fruit ability for that as well. Silence you, I have yet to show you my true abilities. Bentham pulled his left leg back with his right leg forward. He then positioned his hands into the crane posture. I didn't think I would stay with this crew for so long, but I like them, they are now my friends. The rock below him began to tremble as he was emitting his own willpower outwards, powering up for his true strike. Your friends are all weak, all weak. You will all die today by our hands. Buffalo began to rotate more rapidly, preparing to challenge whatever Bentham was generating. Try me. Bentham then smirked and disappeared in a blur. It was a technique he learned from Sir Lucci. Then he used his speed to get his fist to collide with the face of Buffalo. The impact was so great that those who heard the crack grimace as they could feel the pain. The fist, which had been hardened with repetition and punching wooden posts, came from Sir Arlong's teaching. As Buffalo fell backwards, Bentham had thought of the perfect finisher. He changed his position mid-air and spun forward, finally meeting the body of Buffalo with the heel of his right foot. He then used the impact to launch Buffalo straight to the ground, a crater made in his wake. That kicking technique was thanks to Queen Hancock. He used the year in training with the crew to polish his Akama Kempo, as well as implementing his own flair and other people's teaching. He landed gracefully on both feet as Buffalo was not moving anytime soon. That's what you get for mocking the power of friendship. Tears began to flow from his eyes, happy tears, from earning a victory against a New World pirate. Unquixote Pirate Matchvies vs Straw Hat Grand Armada 3rd Division Galdino. Help. Galdino was running really fast. Months of training under the commanders have really done wonders with his physical fitness. But his worst enemy finally manifested itself once more, a rock which stuck out from the ground got in his way and he tripped on it. He was running so fast that as soon as he hit the rock, his momentum brought him tumbling forward. He was only able to stop when he hit his face right at a wall. You're an idiot. Matchvies had been jogging to follow Galdino. The wax user was indeed an idiot, but he was a strong idiot. I may be an idiot, but I'm not the one to fall for my trap. Galdino adjusted his glasses as indeed, Matchvies was surrounded by a wax tsunami, there was no escape. The wax tsunami had been created by Galdino as he ran, his seemingly pointless running around the place turned out to be a technique. The wax tsunami came crashing down on top of the muscular power man. Let me tell you something about the New World boy. Matchvies' head began to turn pink, for despite his body being swallowed by wax, he was the ton man. What did that mean? 1-ton headbutt. He slammed his head onto the wax, shattering the substance and ultimately freeing his body. Oh come on. Exclaimed Galdino as he used one of his key tactics to trap the massive man in his wax. But now, he had no choice, it would need to be a fight. Wax armor. His hands were covered in massive white wax boxing gloves, his feet were covered by stilt-like wax shoes that matched his height with Matchvies. This was a technique suggested to him by Captain Leaf, he said this form would give him a fighting chance against a strong opponent. What he would need to do is keep pumping his wax ability to his armor, and he has a solid encasing. 1-ton punch. Matchvies launched a punch forward to which Galdino met him with his own wax boxing gloves. The impact caused by the powerful 1-ton punch caused his boxing gloves to collapse on its own. A punch like that would destroy him. Galdino was no longer the weak Paradise agent of the Baroque works. He was now a Straw Hat Grand Armada pirate. The punch of Matchvies caused his gloves to collapse, but instead of panicking, Galdino swallowed the fist of Matchvies and encased it with quick-drying wax. With Matchvies caught by the hand, Galdino did not give him time to react as he kicked him with his stilt right leg, then he pulled him back in and punched him with his free wax boxing glove hands. The onslaught continued with another kick, then a punch, then kick, punch, kick, punch. He kept going until Matchvies was no longer conscious. He finally let his hands go and let him plop to the floor. Today was Galdino's victory. Thank you Captain Leaf and the Grand Armada's hell training. He jumped up and down celebrating his victory. 3 down, 7 more to go, and if we're being real here, those Galdino, Jem and Bentham were the weakest of the crew, and that was saying something. Straw Hat Grand Armada 4th Commander Arlong the Saw vs Don Quixote Pirate Senor Pink. I wouldn't sweat it. A clean hit to the nose was all it took for his opponent to start bleeding. Arlong tapped his foot. No, really. Don't worry about it. Fine, are you ready now? Sure, let's continue. Strange, the conversation between Arlong and his opponent, Senor Pink. He was a respectable opponent, though something was off about him. He seemed like a mafia dude, but something was aching on the back of his mind. Arlong could feel it. He's been training with everyone aboard the ship, maybe this is what they call hockey. Senor Pink struck his fighting post, though a bit hesitant, something was really bothering him. Alright, what is wrong, man? Arlong dropped his guard and asked his opponent man to man. Nothing man, just get on with it, I need to be somewhere after I finish with you. First of all, you have no chance in hell of beating me, second, where is this place you need to go? Arlong stared into Senor Pink's eye, to which the skeptical Dunquixid agent returned the look. They both stared off each other for a good 5 minutes before Senor Pink finally broke the gaze. Alright, fine, my kid is going to be born any minute now. That's why I'm in a hurry, okay? Are you freaking serious right now? Your kid is being born and you're here carrying out someone else's agenda. Arlong scratched his head throughout this, his ideals have changed throughout the year he's been with the crew, no longer was there an ounce of human-hating gene on him. I owe a lot to Doffy. Look man, I'm going to be straight with you. Arlong leaned against a wall and pulled out a cucumber from his pants pocket, he then took a bite out of it and began eating. Senor Pink had a confused face as to where the hell that cucumber came from. Doflamingo will fall today by the hands of the king. So we can do two things, we fight where I will beat the living hell out of you and you miss your kid being born, or we can both go to where your kid is and you can be a dad, walk away from the life of crime. I know man, if I walk away he'll kill me and once he learns about my family, he'll kill them too. Senor Pink lowered his voice, for some odd reason, he was considering Arlong's offer. Again bro, we will not lose. How many times do I have to say it? In that same moment Burley had been keeping Sugar occupied by keeping her confused in her mirror world. Jem had defeated Gladius but was now being carted off somewhere by two strange people. Bentham and Galdino defeated their opponent in an impressive manner. Robin made quick work of Jola as her abstract art was no match for a well-trained Nico Robin, especially under the tutelage of the Strawats. Fine, alright man, I'll trust you. Let's go see my son. Alright, let's go. Arlong pulled out a mirror as he ran alongside Senor Pink. Burley's face emerged on the other side. Hey babe, how are you doing? Good, this toy kid is annoying. Burley responded with an annoyed look on her face. Okay babe. I just want you to know that I'm going to go with him to his baby. He then winked at her, blew her a kiss, and hung up. Though there was a mistake, for some reason the connection had broken up and now Burley was blushing feverishly. For all she heard was this, okay babe, well I'm going to want you with baby. And Burley was more motivated than ever to end this Dressrosa fiasco so she can get together with her girls to discuss this major step in their relationship. Strawat Grand Armada 3rd Commander Rob Lucci vs Dunquixid Pirate Virgo. Virgo had his arms crossed, standing tall and proud. Lucci also had his arms crossed, though he was analyzing and observing. Get out of my way, pirate. I will arrest you. Virgo was already in full marine attire, ready to return to his pose within the marine ranks. He was in deep undercover duty within the marine ranks, feeding information to the Dunquixid pirates. How else would they have known an area as vast as Dressrosa? Cut the crap. We have reason to know that you are full of shit. Lucci continued to stare down Virgo, who remained in character. So Lucci did the most logical thing in his mind, Soru causing him to disappear in thin air, appearing close to Virgo. Tekai Lucci hardened his body to take the possible exchange with the marine pirate. Shigen Lucci then began to launch a series of strikes all throughout Virgo's body. Ironically, the marine blocked all of his strike in the same style that he was unleashing to him. Shigen Virgo was also a master of Rakishiki, and then something else was about him. Lucci gritted his teeth as each of his strikes was met in consecutive, accurate manner. He was mocking him. But why would he do that if he was in such a hurry to return to post? Soru Lucci attempted to add more speed with his strike, but yet again, Virgo matched him with his own form of Soru. To think that a washout such as yourself would feel like you can be a match to a real master of Rakishiki. Rob Lucci, former CP9 standout, I know about you. Virgo commented as he did not fail to block Lucci's strikes. So you pay attention to me then. Lucci decided to heighten it up to a new gear. Bet you don't know about this. Lucci pulled his left arm back, covered it in a resin-like substance, activated both Soru and Shigen, and in one combination strike, Lucci brought his left arm forward at such speed that it seemed to have broken the sound barrier at a sound of a loud crack. High left fist connected with Virgo's abdomen, causing him to be knocked back several steps. Though something was odd, his uniform now has a massive hole on it due to the strike, and yet he did not cough up blood, nor did he double over in pain. His sunglasses fell from his nose, but he was able to catch it on time. He then wiped it with his uniform and returned it into place. Virgo then raised his head and looked directly at the confused Lucci. He then grabbed hold of his uniform, ripping it out of his body, and thus revealing that his entire abdomen was covered in the same thick resin substance that Lucci used to strike him. Though Virgo expected a look of fear from Lucci, what he got was the complete opposite. He was happy. Whoa. You have got to teach me how you do that. Lucci frantically threw his arms around, and even more impressive was that he managed to maintain his armament hockey for longer than his 5 seconds from a year ago. HMPH. Virgo began to pull his bamboo from his back holster, but he wouldn't get any time to retrieve his weapon. Lucci suddenly appeared beside Virgo, taking the bamboo from his hands. Cool weapon. He looked it over and threw it over his head. Virgo looked at him in a confused manner. Oh, you didn't think that was my actual speed, did you? The man who picked everyone's brain was finally able to apply his training. And he was enjoying himself. It seems like Lucci had been holding back. Soar Shigen. Fine then. Virgo attempted to activate his own 6 powers, though it was for naught, as Lucci finally went full power, using his hockey-infused fist to now hit Virgo, despite the demon bamboo's attempt to match the strikes. Earlier it was not a problem, but now, Virgo was not able to keep up. What the fuck are you? I'm a strawwat. Lucci delivered his finishing blow, connecting with the guts of Virgo. Despite the hockey armor, Lucci's armament-infused fist was stronger. Virgo doubled over and fell on both knees, then fell flat on his face. Alright, that wasn't so bad. Strawwat Grand Armada 5th Commander Soul Prince Brook vs Don Quixote Pirate Lao Ji. Brook revealed his blade, then in a blink of an eye, he was standing behind Lao Ji. Not a second was wasted as Lao Ji fell forward, his body emitting a frozen breeze. Brook then returned his blade inside his cane, to where his spirit came into full effect as Lao Ji's soul was cut from his body. In the time with Leaf, Brook has learned to harness his devil fruit and use it to his advantage. He could now freeze his surroundings with his chilling spirit. And he could also cut people's soul out of their body, and he could also choose to return it to them. He was Brook of the Strawwat Grand Armada, no longer will he be pushed around for his friends and for his own pride. Strawwat Grand Armada Pirate Queen Hancock vs Don Quixote Pirate Monet. Hancock found herself embracing her opponent who had been crying. How did they get to this point? Well, they were fighting like normal, and the snow user would rely on her Loja Devil Fruit, and Hancock had used her hockey and superior close combat capabilities to gain the upper hand. Monet would then accept that she can't win, so she began to appeal to Hancock through sympathy. She began crying on how she felt like nothing and she was just following orders and jumped at a chance to embrace the pirate queen. Though there was something off about this, it seems very familiar, and sure enough, Monet pulled a gun on her. Funny enough, Hancock saw it coming, go figure. Who would have thought Miss Doublefinger would teach her something about trusting others? Not today. Hancock said menacingly as he held the pistol to her hand and turned it into stone. She emphasizes her dominance by crushing the pistol into dust. Monet, well, she finally learned her place, finally understanding that she would not get out of this fight alive. Fine. Fine, you win. Monet held both hands in the air, finally understanding her defeat. She took several steps back, continuing to hold her hands up, and eventually fell on her butt. She sat on the ground and awaited her fate. Go on then, end me. Hancock just stared at her intently, trying to do the thing that Leaf does to people, to read them and see what they are about. She used to be a killer first, find out information later. But she has grown out of her empress role and is now Leaf's queen. And to be his queen, she would need to be merciful. So Hancock opened her mouth then closed it again, frustration filling her mind. She then threw a roundhouse kick, effectively knocking out Monet. Lucky for her, it wasn't a killing blow. Ah, forget it, she'll figure it out later. She then used her mirror to call everyone. Anyone available yet? She called. Strawwat Grand Armada 6 Commander Crocodile vs Don Quixote Pirate Treble. Stop it, stop it. The mucus user was getting annoyed, largely because Crocodile kept missing his sand with his body. And sand sticks really well to mucus. That's what Snot knows, once I kill you, I'm going to kill the damn flamingo brain. Then while I'm at it, I'll kill Mugiwara too if he's not paying attention. You're Mugiwara's puppy dog now, Crocy. You could have been Doffy's partner, but instead you choose to ally yourself with a squirt who's not even worth Doffy's little toe. Shut the fuck up, Treble. Crocodile held the golden hook of his left hand over the neck of the mucus user. I only truly serve myself, you understand. Fine, Crocy. I get it, listen, I'll work for you instead. Though Treble was saying one thing, his loyalty was unwavering towards Doflamingo. Treble then fell on all fours, crawled towards Crocodile's feet, begging him to be spared. I'll shoot you straight to the top, I swear it. Is that right? Treble thought he had him hooked, though truthfully, Crocodile could care less. He brought his right foot back and kicked Treble straight through his guts. Layers of snot clinged onto the leg of Crocodile as soon as his kick sent Treble flying. Fuck. He molded his legs into sand to allow the snot to slide off of his legs. Kind of like a snake shedding his skin. Crocodile. Shedding its skin. Weird thought. Alright, that's it, Crocy, I'll kill you. I'll kill you. Though his threat were empty as Crocodile turned into sand and manifested himself behind Treble, chopping him on the neck. The snot user fell on his face, knocked out. I should kill you, I should, but you rotting in impel down will be just as satisfying. With a final smirk, Crocodile slowly turned into sand and floated away in the air. And Treble, well, he was out, unable to protect his dear Doffy. Straw Hat Grand Armada 2nd Commander Dracula Hawkeye Mihik vs Don Quixote Pirate Pika. Pikura. You big sword buffoon. Pika was an excellent fighter whose ability allowed him to turn himself or anything he touches into stone. Mihik, despite his precision, would get in contact with Pika, but he would simply turn himself into a stone to avoid the cut. Pika would travel along his ability, causing Mihik to hit nothing but stone. Laugh as you may, but the end of this battle has been predetermined. Mihik brought his black blade close to him and closed his eyes. Pika looked at his opponent in confusion, reverting to his normal form, following what his opponent was doing, which was nothing. Foolish swordsman, you think you're some big player just because you got offered a position with a warlord. Luffy is a current warlord, and guess what, your precious Captain Mugiwara will die today, I guarantee it. With one fell swoop, Mihik opened his eyes and went through Pika. Black Blade Mountain Cutter. In slow motion, one would see Mihik dash forward, covering the distance between them. Not a second was wasted as his movements were fluid. Mihik brought his blade from Pika's right waist all the way through his left shoulder, providing a massive deep cut through the flag user. In real time it seemed that Mihik disappeared in less time than it would take to blink an eye. The stone user did not even have time to react. How there was a lot of that within the opponents of the Straw Hats. They all doubted their capabilities, and once their ass gets handed to them, they question their loss. Pika was no exception to this. My captain has said that you would be annoying, I thought it would be through battle, but alas, it was your voice. Mihik then rubbed his temple as Pika fell on both knees. Then he returned his black blade on his back as Pika fell flat on his face. Straw Hat Grand Armada 1st Commander Dogtooth Katakuri vs Don Quixote Pirate Diamante. Diamante correct? Who's asking? My captain sends his regards. Katakuri brought out his hands and his trident manifested from thin air. He then took a jab straight through the neck of Diamante, but the flag user was ready. He turned himself into a flag just in time to follow the spike of the trident user. Each strike was met with the perfect movement of his flag body, avoiding instant death. Though Katakuri wasn't one to become frustrated, he remained focused and adamant in striking down his foe. You haha fool. Stab as you may, but none will hit me. Even in flag form, Diamante pulled out a sword in his shirt pocket and began to exchange strikes with the Machi user. He would harden his blade when meeting Katakuri's trident, showing a mastery in controlling his technique. Though what Diamante failed to realize was the match was already over as soon as he was marked. Lucci, Arlong, Brook and Mihik wanted a piece of Diamante as the captain specifically said to kill this one. But Katakuri overruled everyone's request and took him on himself, perks of being first commander. Diamante carelessly flicked along the strikes of Katakuri as a flag, but suddenly, Katakuri scrapped his cheeks. The Machi user drew blood. It must have been a fluke, but then another cut in his upper arm, then another in his legs, and the final strike that scared Diamante was a precise strike aimed for his heart. Luckily he was able to block with his sword. It was as if Katakuri was seeing what he would do before he did it. What sorcery is this? Diamante continued to try and dodge, but he was getting cut no matter what he did. My captain has taught me this ability. Katakuri's Machi barrage completely caught Diamante in a corner. Each fist-shaped Machi punch met with different parts of Diamante's body, and despite his flag form, they were all finally connecting. To see into the future. Blood escaped from the mouth of Diamante, he could not keep up any longer. Katakuri just kept on pounding and pounding with his Machi fist. His body failed to form into a flag to alleviate the impact, therefore he was receiving everything in full power. Though the nail to his coffin was when the punches ended, though something pierced him, something wasn't right. Diamante coughed up more blood as he was pinned against a wall, hundreds of yards away from his original position. He slowly looked down and found a trident was the object that pierced him. To literally drive his point, Katakuri covered the distance, grabbing the handle of the trident and burying it deeper into Diamante. And Katakuri got close to Diamante's ears and whispered, "Captain sends his regards." To which Diamante responded with a long breath, exhaling for the final time. Straw Hat Grand Armada King Mugiwara Monkey D. Louis vs Don Quixote Pirate Captain Don Quixote Joker da Flamingo. It's funny how it has been 2 years since he went back in time. And yet, the most serious he got was throwing a gear 3rd pistol right through Crocodile. He laughed at himself to the confusion of the fallen celestial dragon. "Mingo, are you ready to die?" Louis was suddenly covered by clouds as his muscles began to inflate. "I will never die." Da Flamingo responded as he flicked his fingers. String cutter. The string traveled through the air nearly undetected, hardening at impact with Louis in order to cut him. At least it was the plan, but the string simply went limp before it even reached Louis. It was as if he had a force field around him, rejecting anything that came close. The cloud that covered Louis in his transformation finally cleared, revealing Louis in his full glory. Gear 4th. Bound man. Luffy had his right palm forward and his right arm back, he bounced on both legs as he waited for Doflamingo to make a move. For the first time, someone finally saw his fourth gear in this timeline. Doflamingo unleashed two string clones to charge at Luffy, though it only took two palm strikes to destroy the string clones. He has now also mastered the art of projecting haki through his body without needing contact. He was absolutely a monster. This time, Luffy would not let Doflamingo get an ounce of offense any longer. He pushed through his defense and bombarded him with his King Kong Gatling. The string user was 10 years younger than in his timeline, and it was noticeably weaker. And Luffy would just use the same moves he did to defeat the guy, adding his new mastery of relive. So Luffy bombarded him with really heavy punches, not allowing him to breathe. Not even a second. And an opening finally presented itself to where he could ultimately end the man known as Doflamingo. He pulled his palms back, aiming for the chest of the warlord, connecting. Luffy made sure to hit his heart with his final strike. All the pain that Doflamingo inflicted throughout the world, what he was going to inflict to this world. Slave trading, espionage, trickery, weapon trading, all of his underworld work can't happen. His fist connected with the chest of Doflamingo, and a loud crack indicated that his chest plate was destroyed, and the sharp shards of his chest plate should theoretically pierce his heart. Blood escaped the lips of the string user as he fell backwards. It was sort of like slow motion, memories of his exploits went through his mind before finally falling flat on his back, spread eagle style. He was now choking on his own blood as Mugiwara watched him. "Why are you watching me, fucker? I'll kill you though." Doflamingo, despite his influence, power and manipulation, fell to the hands of Mugiwara that day. Luffy reverted back to his normal form, the taxation on his body for using Gear 4th has been reduced to nearly no damage on his body. The year-long training with his crew really did help in allowing him to manage his abilities. "Mingo. I hope you are hunted in the afterlife by your sins." Luffy then stood there, overlooking the unmoving body of the former celestial dragon. He had to be sure that he would no longer torment the world. How long was it that he just looked at his unmoving form? Though finally, after some time, Luffy snapped out of his hate-infused stare down at the arrival of three people. One of which was Gem, who remained passed out of exhaustion. Another was a taller man with a cigarette over his mouth. He took out the cigarette, threw it on the ground and twisted his cigarette and took a deep breath. He then exhaled and looked at the form of the fallen warlord. "You're the real deal after all, Doffy. It's unfortunate it had to end this way." Luffy recognized the smaller of the pair, he was probably the same age as Ace, maybe a tad bit older. He held a familiar blade over his shoulder, striking his ever so familiar posture. "Mugiwara, you finally showed up." And he exchanged handshakes with the smaller man. This time, his all-power vision came through, he must need to see what happened to. Luffy fell on his feet, finding himself on an open field, and it was snowing. An enraged yet poised Doflamingo stood over his brother, a pistol on hand. Not a word was uttered. Doflamingo released a bullet from his pistol, showing little to no mercy. A small yelp could be heard within the confine of the treasure chest behind the fallen warrior, though no noise escaped his range. It was his final gift to his friend, his final way to say goodbye. In a similar manner that Luffy observed Doflamingo to make sure he died, the warlord did the same in this time. As it was clear that the fallen marine would not survive, Doflamingo finally began to walk away, slowly and painfully. No matter what power he had or how much money he pocketed, he just had to kill his brother due to his betrayal, and with that thought, Doflamingo left, accepting that his brother was a traitor. No, he never had a brother. As the snow continued to fall, the little man inside the treasure chest finally made his way out. Strange how this little man had no tears over his eyes as he looked down on his fallen comrade. He then kicked him. Not once, but twice, to which the second kick was caught by the fallen man. "About time." That hurt," stated the man on the snow-covered ground. He then sat up and dusted the snow off of his clothes. "I didn't think you had it in you." "What do you mean?" "I did that perfectly." "Alright, fine, you did that well." The taller man mixed the hair of the smaller boy. "Your timing with the op no me," allowed the switch of the bullet and the crushed tomatoes to take place. The taller man then went to dig for something inside the treasure box, finally finding a bullet. He looked over it and chuckled to himself. "Imagine this tiny thing was going to kill me today. Well, whoever this Mugiwara guy is, we have to thank him. He saved our lives today. And you didn't want to believe the letter he sent you." "Shut up, Corazon. You didn't believe his letter at first either, but he was very knowledgeable on when and where it would go down. Time traveler, you think? Or just really trained in observation? You know, there are people who are so well trained in observation haki that they can see in the future. Nah, there's no way, I'm telling you, time traveler." And the duo walked away from the scene, disappearing from Dressrosa. For within the letter, another part indicated that he would find them, that is, Mugiwara will in due time. And that ended the vision. Finally Luffy returned to modern time, mere seconds from his exchange with the two people before him. "Hello Law, and you must be Corzin." And the tall man responded with a thumbs up, along with a happy smile. "Dressrosa Castle. So what are we going to do with them?" Mihawk had his arms close. It had been a day since the entire happening of Dressrosa. The citizens were made aware of King Riku's innocence with the assistance of the Tontatta tribe. Monkey D. Luffy and the Strawat Grand Armada have once again become the savior of a nation. In the present, Mihawk had his arms crossed, leaning against a pillar within King Riku's castle. Hancock sat on a chair with her left hand resting against her chin. On the other side of the room were Katakuri, wearing his scarf to intimidate the captives within the room. And to complete the most fearsome members of the Strawat Grand Armada, Crocodile was phasing around the prisoners, attempting to intimidate them. In the middle of the room were the members of the Don Quixote family who survived the exchange, the ones that the crew deemed could be converted. Sugar sat beside her sister, Monet. Being devil fruit users, they were bound by sea prism cuffs. Joining the sisters were Matchvise, Gladius, and Baby 5, who had been in the care of the Don Quixote family since she was a little girl. Arlong has yet to return after leaving the premise with Senor Pink, but he had been checking in regularly with the crew to let them know what he had been up to. "If it's any consultations, I never really liked working for Doffy, I just did cause he would have killed me and taken my fruit iron." "Matchvise?" exclaimed Monet, one of the more loyal members of Doffy. "What? It's true he only cared about us cause we were useful in." I hate to admit it, but think about it, if none of us had useful devil fruits, you think he would have saved us?" Gladius was the next person to chime in, the man who lost to a booger. See, I mean Sugar with her very convenient toy-making ability that turned King Riku's soldiers into toys, and everyone forgot them Iron. Then Monet, you have a very powerful Oja-type devil fruit, Snow Iron. Should I continue Iron? Matchvise did not have to continue as his cuffs fell from their binding. Crocodile seemed to like the guy enough to set him free. "Alright then Muscle Brain, you get to join under me." Crocodile patted him in the back, sending him to Crocodile's area, where he would join and wait for the meeting to conclude. "I don't want any crew members." Mihawk remained in his pillar, unmoving. He was never one to take subordinates. "Alright, if I'm joining, I'll be in the Big Meanies division," Baby 5 proclaimed. Though Mihawk had a perfect retort for her. "If you try, I know the perfect place to ship you off to, it's a little place in the East Blue, where a certain blonde-haired idiot will bore you to death." "I don't care. I want to be in the Big Meanies crew." Baby 5 pouted, to which Hancock chuckled. To annoy Mihawk even further, Hancock released Baby 5 from her bindings, to which she began to climb up on Mihawk and pull on his face. The youngster, she was quite the bundle of energy. "Me too." Sugar was also let out of her cuffs to join Baby 5 in annoying Mihawk. The two girls were pushing their luck, and yet Mihawk did not retaliate. It was a funny sight to see, unexpected and hilarious. "Monet, with your strength, I wish for your assistance in the first division." Katakuri chimed in on possibly the most powerful of their recruits. "I believe that the king will like you as well." Emphasis on the like, Hancock inserted her own view in terms of how Leaf wanted a harem, and a king deserves a loyal following. While Katakuri and Hancock were having a non-verbal exchange for the services of the snow user, Crocodile also freed Gladius. "You're in my crew now, Bomb Man. But you lost a freaking gem, you idiot, I'm gonna have to beat you into shape." "Yes, sir," replied Gladius as he joined Matchvise. The two shared a powerful high five in being given a second chance to right their wrongs. Monet had been looking back and forth between Katakuri and Hancock, she could not believe that people were arguing for her. It made her feel wanted more so than Doffy ever made her feel. "I would like to join the first division, but I would not be opposed to joining the king during the evening if he wants me also," Monet spoke up for herself, to which Katakuri and Hancock gave her a look, but they respected her decision. Her cuffs were removed and finally the Strawats each obtained members for their crew. Well, all but Mihawk, who was dead set on shipping the kids to Zeph. Red Leg owed them after saving him on the Death Rock after all. So it was complete, the newest addition to the Strawats were as followed. Monet joins the Strawat Grand Armada 1st Division. Sugar and Baby 5 were going to be brought to Zeph by Dracula Mihawk, although they insisted they would like to join his division. Last but not least, Crocodile managed to take both Matchvise and Gladius under his division. Though there was someone missing, where were Virgo and Senor Pink? Unknown town delivery room. Arlong had been waiting outside the delivery room, phasing back and forth in anticipation. Senor Pink had been in the delivery room for half a day now, and there's no indication it would end any soon. Suddenly Senor Pink finally made his way outside of the room with a shocked look on his face. Arlong began to fear for the worst, the expression on the man's face was a mix of shock and dread. "So how was it?" Arlong spoke carefully, trying not to trigger the man. "Blood everywhere, there was blood everywhere," began the confused warrior. Though his expression changed instantly to a joyous expression. But my Russian is doing well, and also we have a boy, a little one named Gimlet. Arlong blew a sigh of relief. The new father gave his new friend a hug. Thank you for convincing me to be here for my wife and newborn baby. Ah, of course man, you're dumb for fighting for Doflamingo instead of being here for your family. Yeah, I know. Well anyways, I guess it's time to return to Dressrosa. Just beat me up good to make it seem like I put up a fight. But Arlong hit Senor Pink on the back of his head. How many times do I have to tell you that there was no way we would lose, and I meant it. The Strawats have won, and Doflamingo is dead. To this Senor Pink dropped the cloth which he had been holding. Aren't you glad that wasn't you kid? Shahaha. No way, he's really dead. Yeah man, I told you. Plus we implemented some of your crew members into our own division. Who? Matchvies, Gladius, Sugar, Baby 5, Monet, and some other guy I forgot his name. No way you guys are super strong, I thought Doffy was invisible, I want in. Senor Pink proclaimed, revealing a blade. I wish to signify my undying fealty to you by blood. He was about to cut his hands open to signify his loyalty, though Arlong stopped him. Listen man, I like you, but I need you to take care of your family instead. I can't imagine what it would do to them if little Gimlet's father is not with him. Senor Pink put away his knife and understood Arlong's request. Thank you again, you are amazing Arlong. Senor Pink proceeded to cut his hands anyway. It may not be now, but one day when you need me, I will aid you and the Strawats boss Arlong. At first he was a bit irritated, but he warmed up to his actions. He smiled at the statement. I got to go back to my people. Arlong gave Senor Pink a thumbs up and proceeded to make his way outside. But I'm counting on it, Senor Pink. Goodbye boss. Senor Pink took a bow and returned to his wife's side. Russia weakly gave him a smile. We still have to talk about your real life Mr. Banker, but he is really a pirate. Senor Pink flinched at the threat of his wife, though she gave him a kiss on the cheeks. But another time, for now let us take care of our Gimlet. She proceeded to hand over the baby to Senor Pink. He carefully took the little baby and began to rock him left and right. Little Gimlet gave him a toddler's precious smile, causing a tear to fall from his eyes. I love you so much Russia and you my little Gimlet. Meanwhile Arlong had been walking back to Dressrosa when a thought finally popped into his head. Oh yeah. I remember the last guy now, that guy Lucci beat up Virgil. No, was it Vabana? Nope, that wasn't it, it was Dressrosa Plaza. The 3rd Division commander was in charge of civil assistance. He had happily taken on the job and put his crew to work. Galdino was more than happy to help, while the newest recruit wasn't so nice at the first meeting. The 4th Division members, Bruley and Jem, along with 5th Division Commander Brooke and member Bentham, were also assigned to the project. Robin, from the King's Harem, was also involved in the restoration project. The Tontata tribe were also in attendance, becoming crowd favorites after their efforts the previous day. Lucci was on a brief water break when his newest recruit joined him, drinking some water for himself. Though funny enough, the man had a glass of water stuck on the bottom left corner of his face. Why am I free to walk around? The newest recruit asked. Because even if you try anything, I'll just beat the shit out of you again. It was true, Lucci was not lying. Fair enough, but I am a Marine officer, a traitor within their forces. They are going to come after my head. Sure they are, but I was the best in the business. As of last year, there was no one better than me in assassination, so you'll be okay. You got the entire armada behind you now. I am loyal to Doffy. Who is dead. Right. Then the man began to return to his duties within the civilian assistance project. He had been assigned on debris cleanup. Yo Virgo, keep your head up, you're a Strawat now. To this Virgo began to walk away, but his frown was replaced with a grin. That he was. Virgo passed over Brooke and chuckled as he saw the skeleton commander performing an entertainment show for the little ones. He also had Bentham perform multiple roles with his devil fruit ability to create the perfect show. Brooke had been performing as the toy reaper who takes toys from children who do not clean after themselves. He was popular with the kids, they especially liked it when Brooke monologues as a spirit. Burlee had been giving snacks and drinks to the children as the adults were busy restoring their town. She was assisted by Robin, who was listening to her concerns. I mean, I want children, but not right now. We are both in danger all the time, and a child would endanger us, right? Burlee had been repeating what Arlong said the other day about having children. If you truly love each other and you both decide to have children now, then go for it. No, I will tell him not yet, it is not the time. Her worries then turned into a knowing grin. So, you're one of Captain's queens. How is that? Robin replayed the kiss that they shared months ago, and she had been actively avoiding any chance that they would be alone. Luffy made her heart flutter, though she did not know what to do with her emotions. She knows what he would want from her in terms of being in bed, but she was not sure if she was ready for that. Meanwhile, Hancock would always tell her about what things they were doing, and it would always make her hot all over. Earthed Robin, hello. Burley noticed a deep blush of Robin, to which she took the opportunity to tease her further. Thinking about it, huh? She began to nudge Robin, knowingly causing her to feel even more embarrassed. Tonight. I will do it with him tonight. She announced, to which everyone, and it means everyone within the plaza, heard. She turned beet red in color and she began to run to bury her head under some rocks or something. Dressrosa throne room. I can't express enough what you've done for us. Mugiwara, anything you wish, I can make happen if it is within my power. King Riku was sitting on his throne, beside him were Princess Viola, Princess Scarlet, baby Elizabeth in her lap, and Kairos. The citizens were just going to have to learn to accept that Princess Scarlet married Kairos into the royal family. Though that was an issue for another time. For now they had a guess, Mugiwara. I am humbled. I only truly wish for 4 things. Name it, Mugiwara. Anything. 1. Dressrosa's loyalty under my flag. 2. For the members of the Donquixote pirates who survived, send them off to Impel Down. 3rd, there is one member of the Donquixote family I want you to consider to join your ranks, Pika. He may be annoying, but he will be useful to you and your land made mostly of stone blocks. Each of his requests was met with an approving nod of King Riku's head. Lastly, one of my men will be present as your entourage for next year's Lively. I do not protest any of your requests, Mugiwara. By tomorrow the Marines will be called in to place members of the Donquixote pirates in Impel Down. And as far as Pika, I will have Kairos propose a job for him within my army. Then your last request, sure, who do you have in mind? And to this Leaf smiled. Some time passed as the group continued to exchange pleasantries. And it was time to excuse himself. I enjoyed my time with you all, but I will need to excuse myself. I have to return to my crew. Mugiwara, I do have one request for you. To this Leaf looked at the king with curiosity. To solidify the alliance, I ask that you take my daughter. I understand that you have a polygamic relationship. Princess Viola got up and stared Leaf directly in his eyes. I am flattered, my king, but I am a firm believer in choice. I do not want to force a young princess in a relationship which she does not want. I'm sorry to interrupt, Mugiwara-san, but I'm far from not wanting. Her voice was laced in mystery, one in which he knew he would learn of later. For once, Leaf was at a loss for words. In Alabasta, it was an easy no since Princess Vivi was a little girl, though he seemed to have locked himself in a contract with her once she came of age. But here in Dressrosa, Princess Viola was the same age as him. Princess Viola approached him, slowly. She then got close to his face, just one more motion, and she would kiss him. Though instead of doing so, she whispered seductively in his ears. I am yours. To this he shuddered, her words were laced in so much meaning that he could not wait to interpret. It is settled then. King Riku along with Princess Scarlet and Kairos smiled at the new relationship that developed within the throne room that day. Princess Viola continued to look into his eyes and he couldn't help but also stare back into hers. To say it was going to be interesting was an understatement. Night. To say that the day was eventful would be an understatement. The defeat of the Donquixote family has created a massive hole in the underground world. Despite being a massive douchebag, Doflamingo is a very influential figure in the work. The hole which he created was going to be a bloodbath amongst the underground players, Kaido, and even Guild Tesoro. Leaf rested on his bed, waiting for Hancock to join him, though she insisted on staying out with the girls, as she wanted to spend time with Burley and Robin. His commanders and their subordinates were also busy doing their own things. Crocodile had decided to seat his new members, Matchvise and Gladius, and get to know them better. Listen here, weaklings, I'm going to be your leader from here on out. You can call me Mr. Zero. Then Brooke and Bentham were planning their show for the next day, while Laboon was going to be a big part of it. Lucci had been pushing Bentham and Virgo to their limits by having them spar, Arlong would join them along with Gem. Katakuri and Mihawk were sharing a drink together, discussing the possible next move of the future king of pirates. Balmone, Sugar and Baby 5 were sent off to their rooms to rest, it had been a long day. Eventually we'll have to face the Yonkos and the world government to get our captain to the promised land. Katakuri began to drink his barrel of beer, chugging it down. Sure, but we will be ready. Mihawk had a glass of wine and he was twirling it, the darkness of the night was perfect for giving off the mood of the calm before the storm, there's no way that they would rest in Dressrosa for a long time, Captain was planning something, and he knows it. Elsewhere, Hancock was indeed hanging out with a girl, but someone was noticeably missing. She said she'll do it, huh? Burley was by Hancock as they were both sharing stories of their life. Yeah, I'm so glad Robin finally found the courage. She is his queen. Hancock took a bite off of an apple. Last time she saw Leaf was after the meeting with the royalties of Dressrosa, and looks like someone will be joining them. Speaking of the new member. Hi, I was told you would both be here. Princess Viola joined the duo. Princess. Burley got up and took a bow. Oh please none of that, I am simply Viola from here on out, I am no longer a princess, but a member of this pirate crew. Hello Viola, I am Hancock. Hello, so what should I expect with joining you all? As Viola was getting comfortable with the other ladies of the crew, one particular woman was debating with herself, standing outside the door of the Straw Hat Captain. She wore a robe over her attire, just the thought of what she was wearing or the lack thereof made her blush furiously. Though she made a commitment. She was going to do it today. So she brought her hands up to his door, bring up the courage to knock. And she brought her hands forward and began to knock once, twice. Then his voice could be heard on the other side. "Lemon. Come in," called out the Straw Hat Captain. So she did as she was told and opened the door, slowly. She found him sitting on a study table, reviewing plans for their next move. There was a log post at different locations, but that wasn't why she came here. "Ah, Robin." His voice noticeably got caught as she made her way inside, shutting the door behind her. She wore a pink lace robe to cover her body. "How may I help you?" "Captain, if I am to be your queen, I wish to perform my duty for you." She was so cute as she said those words, she struggled to say them out of embarrassment, but there was nothing to be embarrassed about. Luffy was so used to her confidence in his timeline, but this shy, young, inexperienced Robin was also a welcome sight. "Robin, I don't want you to do anything you don't want to. To be my queen is to remain by my side," though instead of letting him continue, she instead removed her robe. Her attire effectively shut down the king from uttering another word. She wore a pair of laced black underwear, her most revealing outfit in her closet. "Please Captain, I want this, I have been wanting it for so long but I only brought myself enough courage today. Please." She began to take steps forward. A kiss here and there sent electricity through her spine, but it was time to take it to another level. So here she was, giving her all to him. "Alright Robin, come to me." Luffy held his hands forward, inviting Robin to join him in bed. She followed his instruction, her beautiful figure moving ever so elegantly. Only a single candle remained lit through their exchange with Robin finally joining him. Initially a kiss was sealed between the two, then their kiss intensified as Luffy pulled her closer. She was letting him lead as she did not know how she was supposed to react. She broke the kiss and looked into his eyes. "Luffy, I have never done this before." Robin had the most innocent yet vulnerable look about her, it made him so excited. "Just let me know if you don't like what is going on." To this Robin nodded and Luffy began to place kisses trailing down her body. She shivered at each contact with his lips, but then he was between her legs and he slowly removed her black laced underwear. Don't look at it," she said, embarrassed that he was looking at her. She placed both hands to cover her delicious pink area. But Luffy, he wasn't going to have that. He took her hand and slowly removed them. "Beautiful," he whispered, his breath making her shiver even more. He then did something that made her go crazy, his tongue made contact with her lips and the sensation was unbearable. Her back arched so much as she could not believe what she was feeling. It was as if his tongue was controlling her, making her feel so good. His kiss on her lips below deepened and so was her pleasure level. Until finally, she could not contain it any longer and she began to tremble violently, but Luffy wouldn't stop, instead, his kiss deepened and this made her go crazy. Her trembling finally stopped and Luffy looked up at her from his position. A satisfied grin on his face. He made his woman feel good and that was the best feeling in the world. Though that wasn't the end of it as Luffy removed his underwear. His thick member emerges to the surprise of Robin. She's never seen it before, but it was marvelous. She admired it for a moment before Luffy positioned himself below her, his member at her entrance. "I will put it in slowly," he whispered, to which she nodded. His head touched her lips and she yelped as it began making its way forward. She did not know how it would fit as it was so big, but she persevered. His member went deeper and deeper and blood began to cover it. She began to panic, did something break, was something wrong with her? "I have taken you as mine." Ah, so it was her virginity, she's never done this before, so obviously multiple thoughts filled her head. "Does it hurt?" "Please, continue." It was painful, but she wanted him, all of him, and she begged him for more. So Luffy pushed as deep as he could, but his whole thing could not fit, so as soon as he hit her wall, he began to slowly pull out. She was confused as to why he would pull out, but he then went back in, then out, then in again. And finally she understood what was so good about this, what made women tremble at the thought of this. She was in heaven. Luffy continued to move her to his rhythm, moving back and forth. Her breast bouncing at the rhythm of his movement. Her eyes rolled behind her head as the feeling of pure bliss filled her every being. "Oh my oh no oh." She began to moan as per her instinct, it felt right, it felt so good. She then trembled once more, her every being was on pleasure level 1000. She couldn't help it, her body reacted naturally to him. "Do you wish to continue?" Luffy asked as he pulled out of her, she looked so damn sexy laying flat on her back. He began to fondle her breast as he looked into her eyes. "Luffy, please more." To her wish he smiled, he turned her over, and now she was on all fours. No longer was she embarrassed as all she wanted was more of him. So she followed as he instructed with his hands, and now she was ready to receive him. Instead of announcing what he was doing, Leaf instead went for it, entering her from the back. It was a whole different feeling and Robin began to feel pleasure once more. Her body moved along his member, this time, she was leading. Leaf put his hands behind his head, enjoying the movement in which Robin was performing on him. Her ass was bouncing deliciously on him, and her breast was enjoying the motion of forward and back. Her movement, combined with the amazing visual, finally put him at his limit. Leaf removed himself from her. Robin quickly turned her body, wondering why the sudden action. But then, her face and chest was covered in thick white substance. It smelled so delicious, euphoric even. She then ran to the bath to clean herself, to which Leaf joined her. They cleaned each other off and began to kiss once more. But alas, she was too tired from her first time and collapsed in bed, falling into the arms of the Straw Hat captain. "I can get used to this," Robin whispered as she snuggled closer to him. "Yeah, me too," he replied as he kissed her on her forehead. He then stretched his arms towards the candle, putting it out, darkness filling the room. Late into the night, he didn't know what time it was, but someone snaked herself through his free arms, embracing him. Her unique scent told him who she was exactly. "Hey babe," he whispered. "Hey you," whispered back the beautiful woman who snaked her way into his free arms. "Listen," Leaf began though instead of letting him speak, Hancock planted a gentle kiss to his lips. "SHS, it's okay, let us sleep." Hancock cuddled closer to Leaf as she closed her eyes, eventually falling into slumber. He couldn't believe how lucky he was. On one arm, Bo Hancock, a real-life goddess, and on another, Nico Robin, an angel sent down from the heavens. With this thought and a long but peaceful deep breath, he closed his eyes once more, sleeping next to his queens Nico Robin and Bo Hancock. And Lemon. The very next day, Leaf had summoned the entire Grand Armada. They have been growing in numbers and are now becoming an absolute force to be reckoned with. From the top there was Grand Armada Commander Monkey D. Mugiwara Leaf, the man who notably escaped from Todo Land alive, headlined the destruction of CP9 Division, defeated Vice Admiral Borsellino, Warlord Crocodile and Warlord Doflamingo. His head was currently worth 1 billion Barris. 1st Division Commander Dogtooth Katakuri remained an undeniable force to be reckoned with. His division currently consists of the Snow Logia user, Monet. He was worth a dangerous 600 million Barris. 2nd Division Commander Dracula Hawkeye Mihik was supposed to become a warlord, though instead of accepting the offer, he joined Leaf to become the world's greatest swordsman. He takes no members in his division. And he is worth 300 million Biri. 3rd Division Commander Rob Lucci brings an interesting dynamic for the crew as his members including himself are each sharply dressed at all times. Within his division were Galdino and Virgo. Interestingly enough, he had yet to obtain his first bounty, despite being with the Straw Hats for a year and killing CP9 Commander Spandine. 4th Division Commander Arlong the Saw has become one of the most powerful members of the crew. With a newfound focus and determination, along with members Gem and Lover Brule, he has earned a quiet yet respectable bounty of 100 million Biri. 5th Division Commander Soul Prince Brook developed a new level of mastery with his fruit. Once thought to be a curse, has become a very powerful weapon in the hands of the skeleton musician. In his command were Bentham and Laboon. His bounty remained the same as it was several decades ago, 33 million Biri. 6th Division Commander Mr. Sir Crocodile. Interesting enough, he chose to keep his code name giving them out to members in his division. His initial goal was to assassinate Leaf when he least expected it, but being with the crew for months, he probably warmed up to the idea of staying with the crew permanently. Mr. Zero has recruited Mr. 1 Matchvise and Mr. 2 Gladius. He needed to obtain partners for them. Ever since joining the Straw Hats, his title as warlord was stripped and his bounty was unfrozen, 81 million Biri. 2 men were invited for the event, one Don Quixote Corazon and the other Trafalgar Deepwater Law. One of which was a marine, but Leaf will try to convince him otherwise, the other was a friend. 4 women occupied seats behind Leaf that were higher than the Armada commanders. Robin, 80 million Biri, sat on the far right side, Hancock, also 80 million Biri, but it was recently unfrozen due to her allegiance, sat in the between, next to her was Viola, no bounty as she is still known as the Princess of Dressrosa, sat on her left, and last was Monet. The woman who was also a member of the 1st Division, but also wasn't opposed to becoming one of Leaf's queens. As the 4 current queens of the Grand Fleet, they were present for the meeting. Now the leaders of the armadas were gathered in the assembly hall, which King Riku kindly provided for the Straw Hats to use. Leaf sat at the head of the table with a list of things he wanted to cover. "Hello everyone." Leaf began, looking around the group. "I have gathered everyone today for a very important action that needs to occur in the coming year. As you may have all noticed, our crew is getting larger and we will all need our own ships. How do we do that, Captain? Well, there is a place where shipbuilding is their specialty, Water 7. Luffy declared, to which everyone seemed to agree. Now, this is our final destination for this year in order to get ships of your own. But I need some things handled. Anyone have anything they need to take care of? Any person useful for our armada? The first to speak was Crocodile, who has become a valuable member of the Grand Armada, though he does insist that when Luffy drops his guard, he is as good as dead. Mugiwara, there is an interesting guy that I want to locate. I think he will be useful. Crocodile shows some respect to Captain. Katakuri slammed his fist on the desk, to which the sand user continued to flip him off. Luffy raised his hands to defuse the situation. It's fine, he knows I'll beat him up anyways, continued Crocodile. Luffy directed the sand user to continue, while Katakuri continued to shoot dagger at him. In your dreams, Captain Mugiwara, fuck. Alright, anyway, I met the guy a long time ago. He had a very interesting fruit ability that allowed him to disassemble and reassemble inanimate objects to his whim. I think he'd be useful as a mechanical specialist. Everyone chuckled when he slipped into calling Luffy Captain. He insists that he doesn't like them, but he's grown into his role. I know exactly who you are referencing, and there's just no way we can get him out of Impel Down as we are, and even then, I don't know if he'll work with us. Luffy fought the man in his timeline, and he was a huge problem. As an ally, he would probably be a massive power boost in his already stacked crew, but if an enemy, then he has the power to rival an emperor in a one-on-one battle. Crocodile nodded his head, allowing another to speak. I wish for the children which had decided to force themselves into my division to be delivered to Zeph. He will care for the brats. Mihawk was referring to Baby 5 and Sugar, of course. Alright, Mihawk, but meet us back in Water 7. I will provide you a log post to Water 7, as well as request a ship for your journey. Mihawk nodded in agreement to the plan. Thank you, Captain. Then Luffy continued to look around, not finding another person with any suggestions or requests. If nobody else has any request, this is what I want from everyone. Katakuri and Crocodile, I need money to fund our ships, which will most likely cost us a couple billion bears. In order to do so, I need you both and your division to locate a man who owns 10% of the world's money. I want him, his crew, and his ship, so find a way to convince them to join. Began a log post to Water 7 and a ship for your journey. Aye, Captain. Responded Katakuri. There was animosity between him and Crocodile, but orders were orders. Crocodile nodded in agreement, a smirk on his face. Brook, I need your division to locate two giants residing in an island known as Little Garden. They will be valuable allies in our impending war with the emperors. To this Brook gave a thumbs up in agreement. Arlong, your division needs to travel back to Fishman Island. They have been quiet for some time, and I need to know what is going on. If, and I mean if, the Sun Pirates are free, inquire about their interest in joining the Grand Armada permanently under your division. Aye, Captain, but Brook buddy, can I take Laboon with me? Sure thing, he would love an adventure under the sea. Brook responded. My last mission is for Lucci, your division specializes in intelligence gathering. Am I right that you still have these skills? We are the best, Captain. Lucci responded. Good, I need you to find the location of a list of people of interest. I will provide the list afterwards, but they are high-profile targets. If a chance arises, subdue and propose a spot in the Grand Fleet. Luffy then looked around for any questions. Though there was one glaring subject that he needed to address. Law and Corazon will join you. Now as for me, Hancock, Robin, and Viola, we will head straight for Water 7 so that we can begin the projects for your ships. Katakuri and Crocodile, I need your team there as soon as possible so we can pay for all your ships. Everyone else take your time. Any questions? No one brought a question up. Meeting adjourned. Everyone hung out for a little bit, talking amongst themselves. First it was Monet who went to speak with Mihawk. I understand why they need to be taken away. I trust that my sister will be safe. Red Leg is no pushover, she will be alright. Responded Mihawk. Good. Then it was Viola who talked with the other members of the Grand Armada, introducing herself. They were overly accepting, which made her feel welcomed. Katakuri and Crocodile put aside their animosity to formulate a plan. They had to locate a floating casino. How hard could it be? Brook knew where he needed to go, as Bentham will know how to get to Little Garden, being a former member of Baroque Works and all. Luffy went to Lucci to give him the list of people he needs or wants to invite in his armada. Really? These people, Captain, I mean they are strong, but they are also dangerous. Yeah, but you are strong enough to deal with them. Measure them, see what they're about, and offer them a spot if they are worthy. Aye, Captain. Lucci went through the list as Luffy began to talk with his crew members. Beautiful but deceitful, perfect for his crew of intelligence gathering. Very strong player in the underground world, why would Captain be interested in this man? He knew this guy from training, he will be an interesting guy to convince. This man was a former member of the Rogers Pirate, he needs to be cautious. His abilities are perfect for infiltration, sort of similar to Brule, he'll definitely be a valuable ally. Fuck, that was a warlord, how was he going to get access to this person? Very strong, yet his allegiance could be anywhere, he will also be a powerful ally. This woman was trouble, but the captain is taking a particular interest in her. Thanks for watching. Please comment something about the story so I know you want more.